Chairman Moody, looks like it is 9 a.m., so if you call the meeting to order, followed by roll call and the conflict of interest statement.
Good morning. My name is Greg Moody, Chairman of the Tennessee Board of Utility Regulation, and I'd like to call this meeting to order today and would like to ask staff to call the roll.
Chairman Moody,
Here.
Vice Chair Mitchell,
Here.
Mr. Carter,
Here.
Mr. Hampton,
Present.
Mr. Perky,
Here.
Mr. Stone,
Here.
Mr. Giles,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Dye,
Here.
Mr. Pelham,
Here.
Ms. Bonestell.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. First item on the agenda is to have staff attorney read the conflict of interest statement.
The board was created to act for the public welfare and in furtherance of the legislature's intent that utility systems be operated as self-sufficient enterprises. Board members are not authorized to participate in the discussion of or to vote on matters involving entities in which the board member has a financial interest, with which the board member has a conflict of interest, with which the board member has a contract of employment, or if there is any appearance of impropriety. And Mr. Chair, if I can make one other quick note. Today's meeting is technically a special called meeting, and so we will be strictly limited to what was on the agenda.
Thank you very much. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Board members have received that in the package unless there is a addition.
One thing that I have noticed this morning in the minutes, Chair, there are a few instances in which present tense was used instead of past tense, and so there might be a few grammatical changes, but overall, we won't have any changes to the content if they're approved today.
Thank you. I hear a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is the consent orders.
Yeah, and so with the consent orders, there was 5 this time, and I think we discussed this last time, but unless there's discussion, we're gonna recommend that to pass all 5 at once. And that would be the annual information report non-compliance, the annual information report release, late audit release, training cases release, and water loss release. Did anyone have any discussion on any of these items?
Board members, are there any discussion on the items?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept staff recommendation and approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent order recommendations. Any discussion? None being, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent orders are approved.
Thank you.
Moving right into customer complaints.
All right, Chairman, I do have a request. Mr. Mike Monroe, on behalf of the Plateau Utility District, is in attendance, and he has requested to address the board. And so if it's okay with the board, I would ask that we go into recess and him be given 10 minutes to speak to address the board. There won't be a vote or anything. This is not germane to one of the agenda items, but regardless, we would like to go into recess to hear from him, for him to address the board.
The board is in recess.
All right. So, Mr. Monroe, if you'd come up here, we're going to set a timer for 10 minutes, and it's going to go off, and that's your cue. Okay, great.
I didn't realize this was a special call, and maybe I wouldn't have asked to come up. If I could be permitted to pass this out when I'm done speaking, just to the board. So I appreciate you guys giving me a chance to speak with you. The reason I'm here is you all have ordered Cumberland Utility District to hire a third-party rate professional or professionals to evaluate the feasibility of them merging or being acquired by another utility around them, one of their neighbors, and we are one of those neighbors. So before I launch into kind of what I would like to give to you all, I do think it's fair to say that we're interconnected with Cumberland, and we've seen improvement in our relationship. I can tell that Dax Mitchell, who's in attendance, he's the manager, and Jamie Lawson, his chief operator, are working hard, and we, on our side, do see improvements. So it's fair for me to say that to you all, because you're going to be the ultimate decision makers on an important decision, something that they don't want, They want to stay independent, and I understand that, and I don't blame them. I'm not here to try to convince you one way or another. What I'm here to tell you is we're one of their neighbors, and while Jackson Thornton, which is the independent party who's going to be studying the feasibility, is a very capable firm, we at Plateau Utility District, both staff and our board, have a responsibility to our customers, present and future, to make sure that if there's the remotest possibility that you might decide for them to be merged or acquired, we need to conduct our own thorough study to see how it impacts our customers. In that regard, I've prepared a list of questions. This is not a surprise to Cumberland. I told them first because that's the right way to do it. But I want this board to know, because you will be making decisions, either to let them stay on their own or whether they'll be merged with someone else. And I want you all to know that we're being thorough as you make your decisions. So I think that's really all I had to say. I would like to give you all a list. I brought a copy of it for Dax and his staff. He knew that was coming. So if I could be permitted just to let you know the things that we're investigating. We need to get a handle on the best way to blend those two if it should come about. What the impact's going to be to our customers. How do we blend the rates? How do we blend the staff? What kind of capital improvements they might require? What are the impacts of those down the line? So we can't just guess at that, and we can try to glean as much information as possible out of their audits, but oftentimes the whole story is not told right there. So anyway, we're asking for this information. They want to stay independent. I've got that. They may or may not respond. I'm not asking you to make them do it. I'm trying to inform everyone of what we're trying to do as you're making your decisions. That's all I had. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Yes, sir.
And for one thing that I would add to that, there obviously has been some turnover happening at the Cumberland Utility District, this year. And I will say that the new manager, Dax, he's been very communicative with myself and board staff. And so we are appreciative of the efforts that he's making at the Cumberland Utility District. But with that, Mr. Chair, I would like to go back into session.
All right, we are back in session.
All right. Well, while those get handed out, I will introduce the next item here, which is the Bedford County Utility District. The Bedford County Utility District, we received a complaint regarding the ability for fire suppression for a large development down there, which has also led into the discussion about potential sewer in the area. Bedford County Utility District is technically the water provider for the area. They don't provide sewer. But what I want to bring to the board's attention before we open up the floor to hear from both sides of the argument is there is a whole lot that is going on in this area. This isn't just about one development. There are several developments, and there will continue to be developments. And so the decision that's made on how this area is best to be served is something that we really need to pay attention to prevent future complaints such as this. And so for me, this is kind of the tip of the iceberg in which whatever decision is made is going to impact an area where, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars are being invested. And so we just want to prevent any issues in the future moving forward. And so what we'll ultimately be asking this board to vote on, I'm not going to be requesting a vote today from the board. Yesterday, we received a response from the attorney for the Bedford County Utility District, and I think it was a just response because this complaint was filed at the beginning of the month. Their attorney, Dewey Brandstetter, has requested that this be taken off the agenda entirely. I don't want it to be taken off the agenda because I think a discussion is necessary, but I won't be asking for a vote because all that I would want this board to do is request that board staff go down and meet with individuals, everyone interested, and try to figure out what the best solution is for the area entirely. And so because of the request from Mr. Brandstetter, I would ask that we don't take a vote today. However, we do spend 5 minutes for each side to present their argument as to what they think needs to be done. And then board staff will plan to meet with all interested parties, hopefully before our December meeting. I think that's definitely doable. And then we can come back in December and tell y'all what we found out and how we think that it's best for the T-Board to proceed. Because again, this is more than just fire suppression. There's sewer that's involved, how that's going to be handled, what utilities are at play and such. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I would invite I would ask that the complainant be given 5 minutes to address the board. And with that, there's also other interested individuals in the community, and so they would be able to address the board as well.
Please start the 5 minutes.
All right. So with that, we'll ask, and what's your name?
Joseph Lack.
Joseph Lackey, and then after that, potentially hearing from County Commissioner Greg Vick as well, and anyone else with him. So if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself. Yeah, sure.
Thank you, board members. My name is Joe Lackey, and I represent Tennessee Downs Real Estate Company on behalf of the complainant. This is a situation where there's a great deal of investment that's trying to go into this 231 corridor in Bedford County, and it seems that the Bedford County Utility District is either unwilling or unable at this time to provide the infrastructure needs for the immediate growth that is coming to Bedford County, specifically in this corridor, as well as the past services that are provided to this area, which we contend are inadequate. My client, Representative of Tennessee Downs, is David Boquellin. David Boquellin is a developer. He's reached out and had about a month's of dialogue via email communication with Tennessee Downs, with Bedford County Utility District, and has really not been able to get what we contend is transparent cost, effective response time, and they've also said that they don't have the ability or do not service this area for fire suppression, which we think is a critical infrastructure need for any development, residential or industrial, and it's currently just not there. We've asked numerous times for what the water flow rates are, can this be supported, and have really never gotten a direct answer. Today, I would ask that you listen to Mr. Gregory Vick, who's been a county commissioner for decades in this area and has come up against these problems on numerous occasions. But more importantly, has been willing to testify and present to you today is Chief Thomas, who is the fire chief of Bedford County and has been so for decades. And he has had the same issues with fire prevention, fire loss issues, and even safety concerns that he has for fire suppression throughout this area and all service areas of Bedford County Utility District. This is critical, in our opinion, not only for Tennessee Downs, who I represent, but also the growth of this area in its entirety. And we would just ask, and I think that this isn't something that could be accomplished on such a short time frame, and I think it's good that we're continuing this out and hoping to have a discussion with Bedford County Utility District to see if it's possible, if they have the capability to service the needs, the growth of its constituents, both current and future. And for that, I appreciate your time, and I'd like to ask if it's okay with the board for Chief Thomas to come up and give his statements on this issue and the issues surrounding this and his personal experience so that he can shed some light on what he feels are the shortcomings as well as what could be done possibly to remedy this issue. And I yield my time. Thank you.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. I'm somewhat unprepared. I wasn't prepared to speak to you all today, but I have served with the Bedford County Fire Department for 44 years. 37 of those I've been fire chief, worked under several different mayors. been in charge of the public safety for the whole county. We do experience several issues with fire hydrant locations. We've made requests which have been denied. There is a water flow issue, so we carry portable pumps where we get water out of creeks, swimming pools, wherever we can get water. We've also asked for fire hydrants to be installed in one of our new fire stations, which is on a 2-lane highway, 64 West. We made a deposit and then was later told that that was denied. We were willing to pay for all the cost to get the fire hydrant installed in a parking lot instead of on a 2-lane highway to get our fire trucks off the main highway. Like I say, we were denied that. We've just recently, in the past 6 months, passed fire codes. So any development that comes in now, there has to be fire hydrants installed in neighborhoods. Normally, you might get one fire hydrant or what we call a clean-out plug, which is a 2-inch line at the end of the subdivision. And the homes that we're seeing built in Bedford County now, you know, when I grew up, 2,000 square foot home was a big home, but we're seeing 4,000 and 5,000 square foot homes being built in our county. And we just have to continue to buy fire trucks and water haulers, which most of our water haulers are 2,000 gallon tankers. And I'm having to run 4 and 5 of those trucks to a subdivision. And when you put that many trucks in a subdivision, it's hard to maneuver those vehicles, and they have to run back and forth down the highway to a hydrant, maybe could be 20 miles. That's crucial time, because now, you know, in a house fire, you've got less than 3 or 4 minutes to get out of your house, much less fight the fire and get the fire department there, and then have to truck that water back and forth. Like I say, the development in Bedford County, it's exploding, and I know it's like that in a lot of rural communities, and your fire services need this help from your utility districts to put in the fire hydrants. You know, if I can get 50 gallons of water a minute out of one hydrant, that's better than having to travel 20 miles down the highway to haul this water. Plus it's, you know, safer that I'm not running all these tankers up and down the highways and stuff.
No, you're fine. I didn't mean to cut you off like that. Mr. Chairman, I would also like to give time for Mr. Greg Vick to address the board as well. I'm sorry for cutting you
No,
off.
that's fine.
And then we'll allow additional time for Bedford County Utility District should they desire it as well. But since they traveled here, I think it would be good to give them time.
Please go forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up.
Good morning, Board. I'm Greg Vick. I'm the Bedford County Commissioner. I represent the district in which Tennessee Downs is going to locate. This commitment to our community is the single largest investment in the history of Bedford County, $215 million. And I'm here to fully support their efforts and the contributions they're going to make. And for the record, I am not here to criticize Bedford County Utility District. Instead, I'm here to ask for your help in resolving this problem that continues to inhibit economic development, tamps down investment opportunities for our citizens and kids, and doesn't allow us to improve our quality of life and create job opportunities. Bedford County has 60,000 residents, many with household incomes well below the national average. We're heavily dependent on coordinated infrastructure planning so we can achieve sustained economic growth. Unfortunately, BCUT has historically demonstrated limited interest in partnering with local government to shape a unified vision for our future. The tendency is to plan in isolation, prioritize internal interest over regional collaborations, threaten not only its own operational capacity, but also the county's overall ability to create and attract investments and improve our quality of life. While Tennessee Downs initiated this particular action against BCUT, the underlying problem extends far beyond the $215 million development. A long history of similar disputes has produced unfortunate countywide perception, and it's very unfortunate that BCUT is being anti-growth, anti-progress, and particularly in cases involving major civic and institutional economic growth around our 231 corridor. This past year, TDOT completed our Shelbyville Corridor Access Management Plan, which identifies all the traffic patterns, and it was a big deal to do this. We've engaged Volkert Construction, Volkert Engineering to do our county plan, and you'll see an instance of that. The North Corridor is a very important part of that. And just for information and background, the North Corridor now has our Bedford County Judicial Center and the 231 Industrial Park. That's $140 million. We also have private investment, Duxon Electra, Amneris Green Distillery, Vanderbilt Hospital, Music City Cartplex, $250 million. State of Tennessee is aggressively designated over $140 million to Bedford County, $57 million for a new TCAT, and $75 million to move Middle Tennessee State University's aerospace program down there, where there's going to be 1,000 students and faculty right in our corridor. And unfortunately, many, if not all those projects have been forced to expend excessive amount of taxpayer money for infrastructure improvements that will kill most projects altogether. Now, the reality is BCUD controls nearly all the territory in Bedford County, identified by both our immediate and long-term planning efforts for future economic growth. Yet they've showed little willingness or ability to provide adequate service to these areas, especially along the 231 corridor, the single most economically vibrant and valuable area in the county. Rather than partnering or permitting another capable utility to serve this corridor, they've chosen to retain control, even though the control has limited progress. So I would respectfully request the board to consider, because circumstances have caused this time, for BCUD to relinquish that portion of its service rights, but only within the designated economic development corridor, and allow a utility with infrastructure resources and willingness to serve the area effectively. And that single action will remove a major obstacle to progress and open the door for the type of growth that benefits everybody. The proposed zone we have proposed identifies as both modest and it's strategic. And our planning director is here today if you have any questions for him on how we've identified this. But recognizing and adopting this proposal now will prevent the need to continually revisit this issue. I'm here today to ask you to intervene. Review our plan. You'll see it makes sense. We need you to help us resolve this problem because county government can't solve it, but you can, and we need your help. Your decision is very important to the future of Bedford County. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ross.
All right, board, I would like to now ask if it's okay if Mr. Brandstetter would like to address the board, and he'll be given more than the 5 minutes because they went over, because they had multiple speakers. So we're going to try to keep it between 8 and 10 minutes, if that's okay with the board.
Please start the timer.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning. I'm Dewey Brandstetter. I've met most of you in the past. I've done work with the UMRB and, of course, now the TBOR for most of my 44 plus years of practicing law. I'm here on behalf of the Bedford County Utility District. I'd like to introduce our board president of the Board of Commissioners, David Dickens, is back here. Our general manager, Kevin Mayhorn, who's only been with the district a short period of time, is here. And then their long-term engineer, Buddy Koontz. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to address the board about this. And I know that you have received a letter that I submitted to Ross yesterday. I hope everyone has had an opportunity to read it because I think it pretty well lays out our position. This is just not a proper complaint. It's untimely, first off, because under your rules, if something comes in less than 30 days before a meeting, it's supposed to be put off to the next meeting in December. But more important, whether it's untimely or not, it is an unfounded complaint. Your rules and the law require if someone has a complaint, they've got to go to the utility district board and make their ask, see what they can do, and then if the utility district board has an adverse action, then they can come to you. That has not happened. Absolutely hasn't happened. And what is going, and let me just read you what the law says. A complainant to the Tennessee Board of Utility Regulation shall first appeal or make a complaint to the utility system's governing board or utilize any other available remedy offered by the utility system prior to seeking an informal hearing before this board. And that hasn't happened. They went to the board on September 11th. The board didn't take an adverse action. In fact, they gave them information and tried to work with them. This whole thing's been going on less than a month, folks. The first time they, or a little over a month, the first time they even contacted Bedford County Utility District was on September 3rd. So then they file a complaint after my district has done everything they can to get them information about what it's going to cost to extend facilities where they don't have facilities in place. That information was submitted, an opinion of probable cost, based on really just a sketch. It wasn't even an engineered set of plans or a preliminary plat. But my client busted it to try to get them this information. It was submitted by the engineer on September 29th at 12 o'clock, emailed at 12:09. The very next day, they filed a complaint. Didn't contact us, didn't seek to come back before the board, didn't do anything, but came running up here, and now they brought the fire chief. And I don't dispute some of the things that they're saying because I don't really know. But those are not matters that you can consider. You've got to consider the complaint in front of you. And the complaint in front of you, one, is untimely, and two, it's not meritorious because they have not gone to the board, the Bedford County Board. But really, as I think the fire chief may have said, this is really about more than the Tennessee Downs complaint. It's just a mechanism for them to get in front of you to try to get something they want when they hadn't even come to the utility district and said, let's work together on this. You know, what can we do to serve this area? They haven't even asked what we're doing as far as extending our lines. You should know there's a $5 million project to extend water to this 231 North corridor. They didn't mention that to you. And what bothers me too is that a lot of what is in the staff recommendation is based on letters from stakeholders that weren't in the packet. I've not seen them. I don't know what those letters say, but that's irrelevant. You've got to go based on what the complaint says, what the law says, and what your rules say. So that's why I am asking that the complaint be dismissed. Now, if that, the staff recommendation is for Mr. Colonna to come and talk to folks, that's a very worthy goal. We're not opposed to that. We'll meet with these folks. But I tell you, filing a complaint, a sworn complaint that said we have refused to provide sewer service when we're not even a sewer provider is just beyond the pale. And that was a sworn complaint. And they knew we don't provide sewer. But despite that, we're willing to meet with anybody, and I would advise my client to do so. But it's not something that this board should order. You should take no action on this complaint. It is not a meritorious complaint. It should be dismissed. But again, that doesn't mean we're not willing to talk, that Mr. Colonna can't come down and meet with us. We're happy to meet with anybody. But to try to initiate that process by filing a complaint that is full of false allegations and misrepresents my utility district is not a very good way to get things started. So my ask is dismiss the complaint. Mr. Colonna can still come down and meet with us and Shelbyville Power and Water and the developer and whoever else wants to be involved. But it needs to start with a request to the utility district, not a request to T-Board to order something. It's not appropriate. It should be dismissed. That's our position. I'm happy to answer any questions. My letter, I think, lays it out. It's just, it's a cheap shot. It's really a cheap shot at the Bedford County Utility District. And this board should not allow it, because it may be your utility district next time that somebody takes a cheap shot at. Thank you.
All right, board. So after hearing from both parties, I don't necessarily disagree with some of the things that Mr. Brandstetter shared, and I don't disagree necessarily with the position of the folks from the actual county and the Tennessee Downs itself. And so again, my initial ask of the board to take no action, still stand by that. But if there are any questions or concerns from the board, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Mr. Chair,
You recognize Mr. Giles?
so did they follow the procedure, properly follow the procedure, as we all know we're supposed to file a complaint? That's the first thing.
So as far as the information that we've been provided, and as Mr. Brandstetter said, they did attend a meeting in September and no action was taken. However, we interpret no action as an action. You know, just because you don't vote yes or no, if you choose not to vote on something, we're also viewing that as an action that is adversely affecting the complainant. However, that's going to be part of our discovery in the next few months to see if this is a legitimate complaint or if one needs to be refiled in time for December.
So in that meeting, there was a specific request and a request for information or a decision by the board. I know I'm getting technical, but
Sure.
that's the key point here.
Yeah.
If they did not ask for a decision, then therefore, anyway, sorry.
No, based on the complaint that was filed with us, yes, there was an ask, and either the inaction by the board just didn't satisfy the complainant. And so again, I think that this is something that is more than just, I mean, we can tell that there's animosity locally. Between the county, between the utility district, between everyone at play, there is a whole lot of information that needs to be found here. And that's, again, why I'm not asking for a decision on this complaint.
Do we know what the county mayor's stance is on this?
I have not
Curious.
spoken with him directly. I've only spoken with Mr. Vick as a representative of the county commission, but it appears Mr. Brandstetter might have.
If I could, the address, thank you. The law requires an adverse action. There was no adverse action.
Sure.
In fact, they came and asked if we could provide, Bedford County could provide water, and they said they could. So there's just, to say that, well, an inaction is action, that doesn't comply with the law. That's not appropriate, and it's really not fair to my client. And I know we can't go based just on what's fair and what's not fair, but if there's not been an adverse action, there's no reason or basis for Tennessee Downs to be in front of this board.
Chairman Moody, it appears Seth has something to offer.
Please.
It appears Mr. Brandstetter is asking for a finding of fact that there was no adverse action. This is not an informal hearing. We're not asking for any sort of vote today. I think it would be inappropriate for the board to make a finding of fact that there was or was not an adverse action, because this is not an informal hearing.
Thank you. Mr. Perky, do you have a comment?
Mr. Chairman, I may be oversimplifying this, Ross, but it seems to me that the developer is seeking a no, we do not provide sewer service and cannot provide sewer service, to open the door for Shelbyville to do that. Now, the way they've gone about it, I don't know about that. I'm a little fuzzy on that. But I'm wondering if they're just seeking that no to put the city in a position to do what they can do on sewer. But I'm very much in favor. And in fact, the parties seem to agree for staff to go down, try to get everybody in the room and give us a better picture of what's happening here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Hampton.
Like has been said before, it sounds like there's several issues. You have the fire department and their needs. You have Tennessee Downs and their commercial needs. Why? I understand why the fire chief is here, because he has his needs, and I know it's attached. And Tennessee Down wants those same needs, but why hasn't the board even voted on the fire chief's needs? Like we're discussing his needs, which is valid, but it sounds like his is way independent of what Tennessee Downs need. And while we're talking about what the county, Bedford County Utility District is, what they can and cannot do, where's Shelbyville Utilities in this? Because it sounds like there must have been a lot more discussion with their agency than it was with the Bedford County Utility District. And I think that's unfair to Bedford County Utility District, that it seems like one side had probably a lot more discussion if this has only been presented to them in, we'll say, the last 60 days.
No, I don't disagree with you at all, Mr. Hampton, and that's part of the reason why, I'm just asking no action. Let's go down there, figure out what the real problems are, because again, I don't think all the people have been present for the discussion that needs to occur to figure out how this area can best be served.
Ms. Vanisdale, you're recognized.
It sounds like to me that there's some misunderstanding between the water system and the county commission and the fire department, and that there's not been enough discussion to really everybody group and be on the same page about this issue. And I'm just wondering, is it premature for T-Board to insert itself into acting like a mediator and getting involved, or should we allow them more time to work this out amongst themselves and have their own meetings and get all the parties involved before we go and participate in the process?
No, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. As staff to the T-Board, I've done things like this before without the T-Board even knowing about it, and generally it's, if we can figure out, come to a compromise, then a complaint won't come in front of the T-Board. So, I've been operating in that capacity before, and so it's very similar. It's just in this instance, the cart kind of came before the horse with this customer complaint coming. So no, I don't, and that's part of the reason why I don't want any action today, because it seems like we would be inserting ourselves into something where we don't have all the facts, and it might not be appropriate for us to take any action on.
How do you ensure that your presence is welcome there? Is it because the Tennessee Downs is inviting you down, or the county commission, or how do you make that choice?
I will say my presence is never welcome anywhere I go. But no, I think that, generally speaking, when someone from the comptroller's office comes knocking, like, we have the authority to ask questions. Whether the parties want to entertain a discussion, that's up to them. And, that's another thing that I'll be able to come back before the T-Board. Should this complaint be legitimate, or should another complaint be filed? I can say, so-and-so's not acting in good faith. And it gives us a good idea of what the temperament is down there. I can say, as of now, I've had no bad interactions with any parties. And should that sour, that'd be something that I would share with the T-Board.
Thank you.
If I could say, on behalf of Bedford County Utility District, we would welcome an opportunity to meet with Mr. Colonna. We're not opposed to doing that, but there's an appropriate and an inappropriate way for that to happen. And what has happened here today is the most inappropriate way to try to get this discussion going. All that either Tennessee Downs or Mr. Colonna had to do, call us. We're happy to meet with them if there are synergies and things that we can do. But to come up here and blast this district and say, you've not provided service, you don't provide fire flow, and not even really without any evidence of that, and in an attempt to prejudice this board, is just not the way you do it.
Well, and if I may, I respectfully disagree with Mr. Branstetter there. Buddy Coots, who was introduced as the engineer, sent an email to my client, Mr. Boquelin, stating that BCUD does not provide fire protection flows within its service area. What more can you ask for a denial?
But that's, it's not, they're not
Mr.
required
Branstetter,
to.
if I may. So, Board, before we get too far into the weeds, because I'm not asking for any actual decision from the board, I don't think it's necessary to get that far into it, because personally, I also agree that a utility's responsibility isn't fire suppression. A utility's responsibility is providing utility service, and fire suppression, as far as I'm concerned, under the Tennessee Code or any standards really adopted by utilities, fire suppression is not the priority. So if we were to go based on that argument, I would say that it doesn't really look good for the complainant if we're basing this solely off of fire suppression. But if we want to entertain a really good conversation in the community and we don't continue this discussion, I think that would be welcome, and that's still what I advise.
Mr. Pelham, you're recognized.
Mr. Moody, I think, Ross, I just want to confirm your recommendation of no action. Would you recommend denying the complaint now and allowing time for you to do what you would normally do? table this complaint until a future date, because I think there's far deeper, issues between the development, the initial submittal, the timing, the feedback loop between total engineered plans, what's the total expectation for a development of that size and scale to hopefully work together all the, intermingled people. But I don't think you can get to that solution here, and certainly premature for a complaint from what I've seen here, if it's not gone through those proper channels, as
Sure.
you said. Deny the complaint, or you said no action, table it.
So I would rather keep the complaint open. I'll work with counsel to the board to figure out if, based on what we come up with, if everything that needs to happen, or if anything even needs to happen, can fall under that complaint. If the complaint was legitimate, as Mr. Brandsetter says that it's not, let us figure all that out. We'll go down there, meet with everyone, and then come December, if we find that the complaint is insufficient, we'll work with them on how to get a proper complaint before the board, or we'll do everything under the complaint. But no, I would not recommend closing that complaint at the moment.
I would ask that it be closed, because it's not the role of T-Board staff to tell somebody how to file a complaint. If they've got a legitimate complaint, they file it. But this is not a legitimate complaint. It should be dismissed. Then if it turns out that there is a valid reason to come back in front of this board, they file a new complaint. That's the proper process.
We have a comment from staff attorney.
Mr. Brandstetter is correct. The board rules say that we couldn't hear the complaint. We couldn't have an informal hearing at this meeting. It would be inappropriate for the board to dismiss a complaint at this meeting because this is not the informal hearing.
So with that, board, I'm just seeking no action, and if there's any further discussion, if there's no further discussion, we can move on to the next board item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that there be no action at this time with regard to this
Second.
complaint.
All right, we have a motion and a second for no action on this item. Any further discussion? None being, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, moving on. Thank you everyone from both parties for being present today. We're going to be moving forward. We are on page 147 of the binder that you have in front of you, and we are now on to the city of Memphis. So first, let's see. If you actually go to page 146 of the board packet, you'll see a letter from Mr. Joseph Jarrett. And if you recall, several meetings ago, Mr. Jarrett was in front of us due to a complaint with the city of Memphis, and y'all directed me as board staff to excuse Mr. Lackey, Seth. Okay, I was going to ask if y'all could do that back there. Anyway. So if y'all recall, we had a complaint regarding the city of Memphis and Mr. Joe Jarrett, and y'all asked board staff to go meet with both parties to find a resolution. Board staff didn't have to. They came to a resolution on their own, which we are very happy with. It saved me a trip out to West Tennessee. But we got a nice letter from Mr. Jarrett thanking the T-Board and board staff for helping resolve the situation. With that being said, we have another complaint. And so this is kind of similar, kind of not. We have another, if y'all are familiar, if y'all remember, Memphis doesn't want to do any more sewer outside of the city limits. It's been the position of this board it's been the position of me as board staff that this is poor practice. If you have the capacity and the infrastructure's already out there, it's just best to help the community as much as you can, even if it's outside the city limits, because the moment you choose to go outside the city limits, you're not only dealing with your citizens, your taxpayers, you're dealing with ratepayers. And that's not just for Memphis, that's for any single utility that it comes in front of the board. With that being said, we now have a parcel in front of us that alleges they have gravity sewer lines on its property. And a law was passed recently that says if you have a piece of property and there are gravity sewer lines on it, the utility cannot deny you access to that sewer, assuming that you have the capacity. The complainant alleges that there are gravity lines on the property, thus they can make a complaint under this law. The city's saying, no, you only have access, but there's no actual lines on the property. In my opinion, that's kind of the question here. So, board, I would like to yield and give the complainant the opportunity to address the board and their argument for 5 minutes. If there are questions, feel free to ask them following that, and then we will then give 5 minutes to the representatives from the city of Memphis.
Please start the timer.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Danny Tabrizi, 882 Willow Tree Circle, Cordova, Tennessee. I'm representing the owners of this property at 4853 Egypt Central. This is a 20-acre site. It borders along Egypt Central Road, and it has gravity lines both along the Egypt Central and also it's in a specific stub at the southwest corner of this site, which was put in 25 years ago. I was involved in the development where City of Memphis required us to stub to the upstream, which this property is located. We have made attempt and requested for sewer service based on the law that was passed and is effective May 15 of this year to the Public Works back in June 16 of this year. We did not hear anything until August, so we attempted another request. I specifically made a request directly to the Public Works director, and we got a response, and we were denied based on the memorandum that previous mayor had put into place, and the present mayor of Memphis has continued that same policy that was in effect in 2017. I want to make sure the board understands that City of Memphis, from its inception, has extended sewer to the outlying areas. In fact, they encouraged the growth outside the boundary, and their system was funded by the residents of the county, residents of Shelby County. Since 2017, residents of Shelby County and the property owners have almost become like a second-class citizen. And I hope this is so clear. The state has mandated if you have a sewer bordering your property and it's available and there is no capacity issue, the property owner deserves a connection. Please keep in mind, we're not asking for any extension that is beyond this property. All it is just connecting to an existing line. I'm going to move in here and show you our property. The property is depicted in red. That's the 20-acre site. It's the south of Egypt Central. Austin P. Highway is to the east. Singleton Parkway is just immediately east of our site. There is gravity line along Egypt Central, 8-inch gravity line. 25 years ago, when we developed this site, there's a stub street with an 8-inch stub right there at the southwest corner of this property. There is a 12-inch trunk line that carries all this development to the north. So there's no issue of capacity. We have ample capacity. All we're asking, let us connect to our sewer that was constructed some years ago. Also, there's two existing structures that faces Egypt Central. One of them has a sewer connection already, but the house is vacant. So all we're asking, City of Memphis, let us connect to our existing sewer. With all that, I'm happy to answer any question you have.
Thank you. We do have a question from a board member. Mr. Pelham, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. I just want to clarify one point, and I believe you stated it very clearly. I just want to make sure that I understood. You said that approximately 25 years ago, when you had developed the property immediately to the west, that Memphis required the development at that time to install sewer connections for future considerations that are existing, and there is an existing sewer line that would drain to Memphis capacity today at the southwest corner of this property.
I was the engineer on that project 25 years ago.
And Memphis required you to install
And
it.
Memphis required, if you can see this purple line, that is the ridge line.
Is the line that you referred to, it's a very specific question that I have. It is on the parcel that you're asking about, it is internal and would drain to it today?
Yes, sir.
And Memphis required you to install it, you didn't do it out of
Absolutely.
your own behest?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's my question.
Any other board members? Yes, Ms. Vanisdale, you're recognized.
Would you require a new tap from the city sewer?
Well, it's not, all it is, extension of tying into that sewer manhole, which is at the southwest corner of our property.
Okay, would it go out, would it be on the public right of way at all?
Well, some of the sewer will be in the public right of way, yes, ma'am.
Has the governing board for the water utility, which I suspect is the city, have they voted officially to deny you, or was it just the letter from the staff that you got?
Well, City of Memphis is sort of a special case. They do not have a specific board. The ultimate authority lies with Public Works Director and Mayor Young. And we have attempted numerous times to reach and see if we can plead our case, but it's been no success.
And I'll also, it's board staff's understanding that they don't bring these matters in front of city council, that they just deal with them like executively.
Mr. Perky, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of questions, and I'm not an advocate for you or against you. I just have a couple of questions. We all understand that elected officials change, and sometimes policies change with that. It's not very efficient in government sometimes, but it's just the way it is. Have you requested annexation along with that?
Yes, let me correct that. The City of Memphis has stopped annexing properties into incorporated part of City of Memphis.
Okay.
They do not accept annexation requests.
So the city has taken the position that even in the urban growth boundary, they're not going to annex anymore, correct?
Correct.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the board? And Memphis is here, Ross?
Yes, and so, yeah, thank you for your time, and I would like to ask do y'all want to come address the board? I assume so. So again, y'all will get 5 minutes if you wouldn't mind to just introduce yourselves. when
Sure,
you start.
absolutely. I'm sorry, is this yours?
Yeah, I'm getting out of the way.
No, if you're okay, I can just sit my laptop.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Cece Drayton. I am one of the partners at Baker Donaldson Law Firm, and I also serve as outside legal counsel to the City of Memphis. I believe I did appear before this board earlier this year, so some of you may recognize, hopefully, this friendly face. I'm here this morning, again, on behalf of the City of Memphis with respect to Mr. Tabrizi's complaint. One of the things that we just really want to bring out here is the fact that the City of Memphis is solely relying on Public Chapter 461, which is the newly enacted statute. I believe it has now been codified as TCA 782, 710. And if you would just allow me to read to you, I submitted materials yesterday which outline our particular position, but more specifically, this newly enacted state law specifically says that a utility system as defined in 782, 701B that provides wastewater service shall provide, okay, let's make that clear, shall provide a connection to the owner of real property for wastewater service when the utility system, one, has an existing gravity sewer line located on the owner's property, and the owner requests such connection and service. The problem that we have here today is that the city of Memphis does not have an existing gravity sewer line on 4853 Egypt Central. There is an existing gravity sewer line that the city owns, but it is actually located within the right-of-way, which is north of the subject parcel. There is a single-family home that is located on this particular subject parcel, but that single-family home has a private line that is connected to the city's public sewer system. And as you guys well know, the city cannot compel this private property owner to allow Mr. Tabrizi to connect to its private sewer line on its private property. Mr. Tabrizi is proposing a 75 single-family dwelling development. Okay, so we can't even, I don't even know, Mr. Morgan here would have to share with you what that increased load would be. But either way, again, the law, this is newly enacted state law. This state law was not in place when I was here back in March with Mr. Jarrett. This is new. This came from the legislatures. This is not what the city of Memphis adopted via the mayor nor the city council. It is the Tennessee General Assembly right up the street or wherever they are from us, right? This is what they've said. And so they have established specifically the burden of proof for the city. So when Mr. Morgan received Mr. Tabrizi's request, well, Mr. Morgan said, okay, well, what does the state law says? The state law says that we shall, meaning that he clearly understood that he had an affirmative obligation to grant the sewer or approve the sewer connection request submitted by Mr. Tabrizi if the city owned a gravity sewer line on the property. They don't, okay? We submitted a sewer map yesterday among the materials that we submitted, and the sewer map clearly depicts where the city's gravity sewer line is within the public right-of-way. I believe Mr. Tabrizi also pointed out about the fact that there was another development that he was a part of 25 years ago. If I'm correct, I think it's the Hampton View Lane, okay? Okay, sir. Hampton View Lane is the street, okay? That particular development still does not, it is located to the southwest of the subject parcel. The stubs that he's talking about, if I understand correctly from Mr. Morgan, and he's going to talk about the technical components of it, the two stubs, they are located southwest of the subject parcel. Again, there's still no gravity sewer line owned by the city that is located on 4853 Egypt Central. So we're here, I'm here. Mr. Morgan will answer whatever technical questions, but I'm here to underscore the fact that the city has complied with the law, and it has not approved this because it is, Mr. Tabrizi's request does not satisfy the statutory criteria of the new law. Now, we certainly recognize that the statute also allows Mr. Tabrizi to come before you guys and to be able to evaluate the basis of the denial. But what we want to be very clear is the basis of this denial is because it does not satisfy the statutory criteria of the new law. I'm going to yield the floor to Mr. Morgan, if that's okay.
I think Mr. Morgan will be able to answer the question.
Sure.
We'll go about that.
Okay.
Mr.
Yes.
We got a question from a board member, Mr. Perky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your appearance. I do remember you're very articulate, and I appreciate you being here. Let's talk about the TCA statute just a minute. I understand what it says about shall if the opportunity is there. But do you think, and this is regardless of city policy, do you think it was intended, the intent of the law was to avoid any other action by the city? I understand it provides a path if there is a hookup on the property. You know, you shall offer that. I get that. But it seems to me that it may not necessarily prohibit you from doing anything else. Now, if the city's policy is not to annex and not to extend, I understand that. But talk to me a little bit about that, if you would.
Yes, sir. No, and I think that's a very valid question. I appreciate the question. In terms of the intent, we did attempt to look to see what the legislative authority provided in terms of the specific intent, the legislative intent. And quite honestly, we did not come up with any specific findings on what the actual legislative intent was. But what I will say is that, I think quite honestly, I think this new statute taken into consideration along with the prior existing legislation, which was used to adopt the board here, it's a bit conflicting, it's a bit gray. Let me say that. It's a bit gray because on one hand, you have the statutory criteria that says, hey, if you own an existing gravity sewer line on the property, you must approve, all right? But then on the other part of it, it's like, okay, if you deny, the complainant has the opportunity to come before the board, and then there's this additional affirmative burden of proof. Well, it's like if we don't satisfy the initial criteria, but then you have to come over here and satisfy this affirmative burden of proof, which is contrary to what the initial criteria requires, where do you stand? The Tennessee Supreme Court has ruled that when you have a statute that is more specific in nature with respect to a particular subject matter, that specific statute should control over the broader or the more general statute. And so I think that's where the city of Memphis is landing here. And quite honestly, I think, we're going to take into consideration whatever this board says, because I think this really is I don't know if you guys have heard anything similar to this, or if you've heard any matter specifically under the new statute as of yet, or whatever. But for the city of Memphis, this is somewhat of a matter of a case of a first impression, with them really needing to understand, legislator, what did you intend? Because again, it's kind of like it's a double-edged sword.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pelham, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Ms. Gibson, if I think that's the correct name, I'm sorry. Is that correct? Ms. Gibson?
Ms. Drayton.
I'm sorry, Ms. Drayton?
Drayton.
I apologize.
No problem.
If I understood you, it sounded like you contradicted the answer to the question that I had asked Mr. Tabrizi, so my question would be for Mr. Young, Mr. Morgan. Can you answer I would ask the same question. Mr. Tabrizi, if I understood correctly, said with the development that was immediately to the west of the subject property 25 years ago, the city of Memphis required the addition of a stub. And if I understood his answer correctly, there is existing, at this moment today, an existing service lateral that would be internal to the footprint outline of this parcel. If I understood his answer was yes, and if I understood her answer was contrary to that, would you clarify, please?
Yes, sir. Scott Morgan, Public Works Director, City of Memphis. So as part of the city's sewer use ordinance, which is probably no surprise to any of you all here, when developments are installed, it's required to have, it's required to serve the upstream neighbor. And in this case, Mr. Tabrizi is correct. However, that stub is within the right-of-way of Hampton View Lane. So there is a sewer in Hampton View Lane. I don't know.
It's actually on my map, if you will, but it's down here at the bottom of this corner. There is a stub. It is capped, but it's still within the right-of-way. There are no public easements within either property, the property in red, which is Mr. Tabrizi, or the property to the south. So that stub was extended, but it's still within the right-of-way. There are no public easements on either of these properties for that sewer.
So
the other sewer in question is in Egypt Central right-of-way, which is to the north.
And the reason I ask that is because of the specific verbiage in that law, as I read it as an engineer. That's why I ask, is it internal to the existing footprint parcel outline that was described?
No.
If I understand your answer, there was a stub required by, as the regular ordinance for the development to stub for upstream development, but there is not a existing lateral manhole internal to this parcel. It's in the public right-of-way?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Giles, you're recognized.
Can you speculate as to why the stub was required if it was not for future service for this parcel?
Well, I mean, as I said, as common to most of y'all, you do serve, put services in to serve the upstream neighbor, but that was 25, 30 years ago, and things have changed since then.
Ms. Vanisdale, you're recognized.
this feels like such a technicality, 'cause I do think the legislative intent was probably, if you have sewer right there at the property, it's right in front of it, it's even stubbed to serve that property. And I know that was done in the past, but it does seem to me that logic would say they would like you to serve the sewer to the property. There's sewer all around this property. I think the position is that there's not an adequately sized service or tap physically on the private side. But I think it's hard for me to understand, looking at the map, seeing all this sewer connections around it, seeing sewer that seems like it's meant for this parcel, and for the city of Memphis to have a position that we won't serve it because it's technically just not physically a big enough pipe inside the parcel on the private side.
That's not what I'm saying. The state law clearly says the utility shall have gravity sewer service on the property. We do not have
But
sewer
there-
service on the property. So
But
that's,
there
it's-
is-
we're not
but
talking
there
about
is
size,
a-
we're talking about public service on the property.
There is sewer availability at the parcel. There is a vacant home and a vacant pipe already there. So in theory, gravity service is there. I think your position is that that isn't an adequate size, so that doesn't count.
No, that home was served by sewer system, the public system in the street, but as y'all know, every home has a private connection. Every business has a private connection. So the connection that home is on from the home to the right-of-way is private. That's not the city's line. And it's there to serve that single-family home, which has probably been there for 40, 50 years. And now we're turning that single-family home into a 75-lot subdivision, which will need new sewers and connection into the right-of-way, not connection on a utility line in the property.
So the city of Memphis owns the sewer service from the street to the right-of-way line, touching the property.
Correct.
Mr. Giles and then Mr. Hampton.
So your position is, since it's in right of way, you do not have to connect, but if it were in easement on the property, you would connect.
That's correct.
And you don't
And
think
we-
that's splitting hairs?
No, because we've done,
Okay.
we've done that. We have public sewer easements across private property. Again, just like many of you all do here, and the state law says if there's a utility systems line on private property, you shall connect. And we've done that.
I am not an engineer, I'm an accountant. So how many feet is it from this, the public easement, the public right-of-way, I'm sorry, to the property line that this dispute is being discussed about?
I don't know. I mean, right away for Egypt Central, I think it's 2 lanes right there, so right away might be 50 or 60 feet, and sewer's on the north side. I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that's relevant.
No, I'm not talking about the house, I'm talking about this Hampton View Lane, right in between the houses. Is that you gonna answer my question right there, or you were answering up north?
I was answering up north, but I do not know how far the stub from the manhole, how much pipe it would take to get from the stub to private property.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smith, you're recognized.
Yeah, so he probably has the answer. I don't know to Mr. Hampton's question. It appears.
What's the short answer? Just how many feet? Don't go too far.
It is against the property.
So 10 feet
Inches.
in inches.
Inches.
They require a stub from the manhole into the future property.
No, not
Meaning-
into.
Meaning
it's
that
within.
pipe is against our property.
Understand.
But there's no easement.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 questions. One, was the stub to upstream properties in 25 years ago, and I understand that you probably weren't there 25 years ago, but was that design approved by the city of Humboldt? I mean, that's my city, sorry, city of Memphis. No, it's just a reflex there, sorry. By the city of Memphis, was that original design approved by the city of Memphis to be intended to serve upstream properties? And my second question is, if this property is connected, does the system have capacity currently to serve that parcel?
I was not there 25 years ago, but I can only surmise that it was approved by the city to serve the upstream parcel. Now, keep in mind, that was 25 years ago. The city was annexing unincorporated parts of we were extending sewers to annex areas to grow, and that's not sustainable. And since then, that started changing 2010, and then state law changed on annexations. So everything kind of is, being pulled back.
Okay.
To answer the question about capacity, there is capacity in the system to serve it, but that's not the question. The question is with the new state law on property.
Understand. Thank you.
Ms. Vanisdale is recognized, followed by Mr. Perky.
My question is just for our legal counsel. Does our board have the legal authority to, under the statute, to require the city of Memphis to serve the property?
There are two potential statutes this could fall under. Our general customer complaint authority is under 782-702, and that includes, it gives us jurisdiction over the authority to, over the failure to extend service. I think there's a good argument that since 782-710 is meant to specifically address gravity sewers, that the more specific requirements would apply there. Under 782, though, I think we probably would have that authority. I'm actually looking it up right now.
Mr. Chairman, just one quick question for Mr. Morgan, and council may want to opine. If we did not have the state statute, would you serve him?
We would probably be back here at the same spot, because under our current policy, we would deny the request because it hasn't been through any prior approvals. That, no previously recorded PD, no previously recorded phases, no easement on site that requires sewer, no legal obligation to require sewer service based on our 2017 policy. So we would initially have denied, and then I assume been before the board to discuss it.
It just seems to me that when you really drill down to it, and again, I'd invite council to opine on this, it seems to me that state statute is irrelevant on this. I mean, it allows an opportunity. The General Assembly's intent was to offer service to property owners if the connection was there. I mean, I understand that. I just don't think that has anything in particular to do with this one case.
Yes, well, sir, I would respectfully disagree with that. I mean, I think to say that the newly enacted statute is irrelevant, I don't know how the legislators would feel about it, because obviously it satisfies, or it dictates, shall I say, the statutory criteria that the City of Memphis Public Works Division must follow as a utility system in its review. I mean, this is where they must start. This is like step A. They have to start there. They can't even go to just the prior existing statutory scheme that establishes the board, because that statutory scheme is more general in scope in terms of denials by utilities. The newly enacted statute specifically addresses wastewater services. And I believe I just heard your legal counsel say that he does, to a certain extent, agree that the specific statute would have some sort of control, some sort of deference. So, yeah, I can't agree with you, and I respectfully disagree that, yeah, this statute is very germane to the discussion. Absolutely, it's relevant.
Well, it's germane only if a connection is on the property, correct?
It's germane from not only in that regard, but it's also germane because, again, this is the very first step that the City of Memphis must, in any other utility system, must use. It's the first layer of review. So that's what makes it.
I agree.
Yeah, that's what makes it germane.
It just seems to me that once you recognize that step and address it, that it does not prohibit you from serving him.
No, I don't think that we've made the statement that there's a prohibition here. I think the statement that we've made is that the statutory criteria as established in the new law is not satisfied today. So I think that's apples and oranges.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ross?
Yeah, Board, I think that we've had a good discussion on this, and I think we've hit the high points. I have a few things to add, and then I'll close with what I think the board action should take. Thank you all for coming. So, I tend to agree with what Mr. Perky was just kind of saying there is, this statute does exist, sure, but just because there isn't sewer on this property doesn't mean that you shouldn't extend service to them. Especially because it doesn't sound like we're having a capacity issue here. We're just dealing with, Memphis made the decision decades ago to extend into Shelby County. That prevents any other utility from using that as their service area. And now Memphis has decided we shouldn't have done this. We no longer want to help the county grow. So now no other utility can run into this area and provide sewer service, and they're refusing to allow Shelby County to grow when they have the capacity. So with that being said, we kind of need to get into the legal bare bones of it. Can we use this new statute for this? Well, if there is no gravity sewer line on the property, even if it is mere inches away, can we use this statute? No, that's my opinion, but I'm not an attorney. Seth, would you agree with that?
Yes, the statement was brought up that the question was called about the legislature's intent as to what the statute meant. The general legal principle is that the clearest indication of the legislature's intent is the words on the page. And the statute says as a requirement for the board to extend the service that that there be an existing sewer line located on the owner's property.
And so if there's no line on the property, then we can't use that statute. However, like Mr. Perky was saying, and as Seth brought up, we have a whole other customer complaint statute. So if we can't use one, we can use the one that pre-existed. Well, this complaint wouldn't necessarily fall under that. So I think just because so we don't get into a legal fight, they might have to file a new complaint under that statute to say, we're just saying because they're denying. So we would be right back to the complaint from months ago where someone had access to this, such close access, they're willing to pay for everything. You have the capacity. Why won't you help the community? And you can look to this 2017 ordinance that everyone wants to point to. Still doesn't alleviate the fact that you chose to be a monopoly in an area. You're refusing to allow other utilities to enter into the area because, one, it's a logistical nightmare, and the county just wants to grow. When you choose to start operating outside of your city limits, you say the utility's no longer here just for citizens, but it's here for any ratepayer, and anyone should be able to have access to it when there's capacity. So with that being said, board, prior, my recommendation was just send us and hopefully we can come to a resolution here. However, I think that an argument could be made that this complaint, because now that we have finally heard essentially from both sides that there is no sewer line on the property, can't really use this complaint. So board, I would be asking for us to dismiss this complaint, but also if we want to go, if the complainant wants to continue down this path and try to get T-Bor assistance in getting sewer service, we can implore them to file a new complaint under the pre-existing customer complaint statute, where if a utility fails to extend service within its service area and there's capacity, they have the burden of proof to show why they won't help their community. So board, that is my recommendation at this point, to close this complaint out on splitting hairs, as Bruce said earlier, and we'll just implore them to open up a new complaint.
So the board action potentially would just be to close the complaint.
Mm-hmm. Based on the legal basis that there is no gravity sewer line on the property.
Mr. Chair.
Giles,
First,
you recognize.
just a statement. I believe legislatively this was adopted in order to stop this type of situation. I think it is semantics, and I think the legislature intended, based off some history we had with this bill, to ensure that parcels like this are served. However, semantics, I get, we're inches away. So it's just a statement for now. I think you will see this legislation possibly changed if this does not get resolved.
I want to make a motion to dismiss the complaint based on the legal requirement.
Chairman will second. All right, we have a motion and a second to dismiss the complaint. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The complaint is dismissed.
All right. Thank you both for both parties to be here. However, you are able to make another complaint in the future that using the part of the law that would be specific for this. Board, now we are moving on to the Ocoee Utility District, which is page 182 of your packet. So, if y'all remember at the last regularly scheduled T-Board meeting, the folks from Ocoee Utility District were present because they were trying to borrow a whole lot of money for projects they might not have needed that would have absolutely financially crippled their customers. Well, good news, they didn't take out the debt. All those projects pretty much off the table, and they are starting over, and things are looking great for the Ocoee Utility District. They are under new management at this point. Mr. Ben Witt is now the acting general manager. However, with all that being said, there is a complaint in front of us because prior management essentially guaranteed service to a development, and that service isn't available at the moment, and we don't know when it will be. I will say that the Ocoee Utility District is making strides with TDEC, and I believe that even with the complainant in getting this issue resolved so they can have sewer available at their property. So I think that this is going to be solved in the next few months, what the solution will be. However, the complainant does have a legitimate complaint because they had a guarantee, a written guarantee from prior management saying that service will be available to them. So, Mr. Chair, I would welcome the complainant at this point to get 5 minutes under the understanding that the recommendation would be my recommendation to the board is let's just kind of hold off till December, see if a solution is met that makes both parties happy, and not take any action because Ocoee is working with TDEC to solve this issue, and they're making great strides in doing so. But yes, I would ask, as long as the board's okay with it, for the complainant to address the board.
Please move forward.
My name is David May. I am here in conjunction with my partner, Mike Crittenden. And before we start the 5 minutes, if I could get Travis Henry, he's the bottom right hand. He is our attorney, and I think his mic is muted.
Can you all unmute him? Sure thing.
What was the name? Travis Henry, it's TH. It's on the bottom right hand corner.
All right, you should be able to speak now.
Travis? Well, if you don't care, I'd like to go ahead and move forward. And if Mr. Henry becomes available, I'll let him step in at any point if that's acceptable. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you all this morning. I appreciate you all working in conjunction with Ocoee Utility District. They have had many struggles in the last several years with operation of that utility company. Just to give you just a quick snippet, if you don't mind, we've got a little packet to hand out. I think you've got most of it in your notebook, Mike, if it's okay for them to hand it out. What our main issue is that we had a permit, land disturbance permit issued in 2023. you can look, that is actually Exhibit 1. I think that will be in your packet because I submitted that prior to. What that land disturbance permit said was that we had the ability to have all the utilities to our development. Well, the most important thing that I would like to point out, we have a 21,000 gallon rural drip system on our development. What makes us unique, I think, is the fact that we paid for the system specifically for our development. We gave them the land when they were supposed to purchase the land. But when it came time, now we're sitting on a $2 million development with no access to the drip system that A, we paid for, B, we gave them the land, and in the process, they have tied in 90 existing homes in that surrounding area, leaving us with no drip system to tie in. Now, time is of the essence. We're sitting on $10,000 worth of interest per month. I don't know how that would affect most of you, but that's a substantial hole in our boat. When we're sitting there ready to tie in, we've got buyers ready to pay to be a part of our development, and we have no utilities that are in place. So waiting to December is fine, $30,000. We have waited and waited and waited. In November of 2024, he said, and we'll just refer to that as management, that we would have a response from engineers, and his exact wording in the letter was next week. Well, next week has been 1 year later. 1 year later, we still do not have any engineering. Our roads are paved. We are ready to sell. We have no utilities. And I appreciate the work that TDEC has done, because this has not been a TDEC issue. I don't know how familiar you are with drip systems. We found out late in the game, after we were given the letter that said that it could supply 150 units, that it was 300 gallons per door. Well, 300 gallons per door, 70 units, 21,000 gallons. We have 156 units. So from day one, what we were promised was never going to be able to service our utility company. We've been misled, we've been lied to, and we're sitting here $2 million in the hole with no utilities. It's a great injustice to us as developers. It's a great injustice to people that are wanting to purchase these units. And to wait, it's $30,000. And I don't know if the state would like to donate $30,000 while we wait. It would be appreciative. But if you could see the position that we're in is very, very financially troubling on myself and my partner. So here's what I would ask this particular system, and they've had several problems with the system, but at current, the maximum capacity that's ever ran through that system is 7,100 gallons. It's a 21,000 gallon system. It has 90,
Mr. Chair, I have one question. So the board is, what remedy are you seeking?
Well, and I'm glad you asked that. The remedy, and I understand, TDEC has been awesome to work for us. I mean, to answer questions. But I understand that it's not TDEC's, they don't really have the authority to come up with a solution. They can only accept or to deny. But the solution from day one, it's not a performance issue, it's a capacity issue. And all they have to do is to buy 8 lots from us, and that will create enough capacity to service our system.
So the remedy that you're seeking is we force the Ocoee Utility District to buy land from you.
Well, not only just buy it, but also install the additional capacity in order.
For a,
Seth, do we have the authority to force a co-utility district to buy land from the complainant?
No, I don't believe so. I believe the board could order a COE to provide that capacity, but not a specific.
So, board, with that in mind, that we can't grant the complainant's exact remedy that he's seeking, I ask that we just move forward with my recommendation that we take no action until December, because a COE is working on something with TDEC. The best that we could do is just order them to figure out how they're going to remedy the situation, and they're already working on it. We can't force them to pay the $10,000 a month in interest that they're losing. We can't force them to buy land from this gentleman to install whatever. We don't know, I don't know off the top of my head what the exact solution is. I just know that they're in the middle of getting an SOP for drip fields. And to my understanding, it's pretty close to being approved, and that should alleviate the situation. But there still are questions that I have whether this is going to actually satisfy the utility needs of this development. So right now, based on what this board can do, we don't know what the solution needs to be, which is why I'm asking for us to have the opportunity to work with the utility and the complainant to figure out what the solution is. Because the remedies that he's actually seeking, we don't have the authority for, but we're happy to be part of a solution moving forward.
Can I make one comment? Do you have the authority that says that they have to provide us utilities when we have a written document that stated that they did? When we paid for the system, we paid for the land, it attaches to our property. It was all part of the 25 acres that we acquired. Who do we go to? Because we have tried and tried to try. Do you all have the authority to say they have to provide utilities for us in a timely manner?
Ross, you're recognized.
No, you would have to sue them. Because essentially you're saying that they breached like you wouldn't go for contract breaches with this board. So you're essentially that you had a written contract that you were guaranteed something. You weren't given that, so they breached contract. You would file that in court.
Travis Henry? Well, it's just, it's okay.
Again, I'm not saying that we dismiss this complaint. I'm just asking that we deal with this to December. And so I would request right now that y'all make a motion to just put this off until December, because I don't think any further conversation is going to get us to a solution that will, one, satisfy the complainant or be in the scope of what the T-Board can do for this issue.
Mr. Perkey, you're recognized.
Mr. May, I understand you're in a bind financially. I understand that. Because of expectations that, for whatever reason, were not met. We obviously, and I saw that in here, we obviously cannot order someone to buy land. I'm a little surprised that you hadn't pursued a legal action before now.
Well, one reason we have not pursued legal action is we've tried to work in conjunction with them. We've tried to be a team player. But they've known since 2023 that there was a moratorium on that system, that no other homes could be tied in. And they sat back and watched us spend $2 million knowing that there was a moratorium issued by TDEC that no other homes could be tied in. And I understand that maybe your hands are tied, but what I'm saying is, can we sit back and watch their practices take place without holding them accountable at some form? Because I know there's regulations of what they can do and what they can't do, but we've sit here and they strung us along. We've got it coming, and they've produced nothing. And now we're to the very bottom of our wits' end, and now we're saying, and I understand, but we're saying December. Okay, that's another $30,000.
I understand, I get that, but I agree with staff's recommendation and suggestion that we cannot resolve this today. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hampton, you're recognized.
So if we were to independently accept your recommendation and ask them to buy the land from you, How long would it take to build this drip field?
Well, that's the quickest solution. These drip fields, because we don't have a performance problem, all we would have to do is add existing drip fields.
Okay.
And that could be done and let's just say, while we're waiting, it could be installed and we could be selling lots.
So you're saying that it could be completed within
90 days.
90 days? Okay, so if we waited or if we postponed it to December, you still would be out similarly about the same amount of money.
You may have lost me right there. If we say $10,000 a month is what we're losing, if we're at 30,000, you're saying that we would be at the same point.
Well, so you would be, because it's not, if it's 90 days, that's what, 3 months? So you would still be out $30,000.
That's correct.
Whether they do the construction or they don't.
But in 90 days, then we're starting another 90 days of construction, which is another $30,000 while we're still waiting.
Yeah,
But-
Mr. Hampton, there is no remedy that we could provide today that fixes the problem tomorrow.
Okay.
Instead, like I said, the Ocoee Utility District is working on getting an SOP for drip fields that will, I'm being told, that will fix this problem. We just need to make sure that is the case, and if it's not, we'll come back in December and say, like, I don't know if any further discussion is really going to cause any more clarity on this issue.
Let me say one more thing. We spent $27,500 on having this system re-engineered for the sole purpose that they had screwed up. We already had engineering done. Their own engineer said all we had to do was pay $150 and our engineering could be reinstated. So what I would challenge this board to see, are they operating in good practice? Can you sit back and let them do as they please? And here's another viable point. They can charge us whatever they want to tie into that system. They're going to get about $1.25 million just in tap fees on a system that we paid for, a system that we gave them the land, a system they've been making money on 90 customers since it's been in place.
Ms. Mitchell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Ross, did I understand you correctly? Is Ocoee Utility District here to present their planned approach?
They're not. This kind of came up quick. And so I also, based on the recommendation that I was going to provide to the board, I had conversations with the Ocoee Utility District to provide to you. And so, no, they even asked me if I thought that it would be necessary to come up here. And since didn't plan on recommending any adverse action, I told them that because of the short notice and trying to arrange it, because again, and let me go ahead and talk. One of the things this gentleman is bringing up is holding the Ocoee Utility District accountable for the poor decisions that got them here. Well, they're doing that internally. I mean, the general manager is no longer the general manager. The gentleman that came up here and addressed the board several months ago, they have a new one because, in my opinion, it's because of the poor performance of prior management. So accountability is being undertaken. So we couldn't even say, the manager shouldn't have said that you're going to get X, Y, Z, so y'all should fire him. He's not there anymore. So we're already seeing the accountability being done. I'm not saying that this gentleman isn't in a difficult position. I get it. I'm just saying that we can only do so much, and when the utility district is trying to make it right by finding a solution, by working with TDEC to get an SOP, to get these drip fields going, all we can do is just watch, because they're already working on the solution.
From my perspective at TDEC, that it does appear that the engineering staff, as well as the financial assistance program, the ARP grant, are working together to modify the infrastructure improvements that would likely address this concern or issue. And it's on a timeline that I can see that might also meet your satisfaction. So I also agree that it appears that positive action and cooperation is taking place between TDEC and the Ocoee UD to make this right.
Could I ask for one other thing? Could we let this be an ongoing complaint so that this board can work in conjunction with TDEC, with Ocoee Utility District, and us, so that we might find a solution in a timely manner?
Yes, at no point has staff recommended that we dismiss this complaint.
I move that we keep this complaint open and take no action today.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, we got 10:40. All right, board, we are now on page 185 of the packet. We have the city of Rocky Top. I would introduce Ben Johnson to come up here. He's been dealing with this complaint, and we'll go from there. So Ben, take it away.
So with Rocky Top, we had a customer, Mr. Utley. He had reached out. The question is, he's got a property and he had a tenant there. And what's happened was there's a charge for $1,049. And what has happened is that tenant actually cut the locks off of a meter and stole that water. That's what the charge was. And at no point, I believe, from our understanding, was this ever in the complainant's name, this address. It's his property, but this service was never in his name, and now he has been charged by the city of Rocky Top to pay these fees. Also, another point on there too that you'll see is included. He does believe that he was overcharged for some different standard items that have come in like different services that they've charged him. I believe he's got some charges for maybe a meter as well as just standard products that you would use. He believes he's been overcharged for. Any sites where he's found them for, quite a bit less through like different searches that he's carried out. So, but that's what we're up against. I don't know. Do we know if Mr. Brad Utley, is he available? Do you see him, Nate?
No, you're fine. The one thing is, I've been told that, if you remember, we canceled this meeting last month because we did some renovations in this room. We're the first meeting that's happening here. And so we have noticed that there are some issues with the Microsoft Teams and people online wanting to address the board. So if someone were online and wanted to address the board, we couldn't even hear them if we wanted to. So if that's the case, we might, if y'all have questions for this complaint and they're only here virtually, I would recommend that we kick this until December because we're not able to hear them online. Personally, I would implore that if you have any business in front of the T-board that you show up in person. But if you elect not to, we can't hear them right now if we wanted to. We might be able to hear them after lunch. I'm told that maybe if we were to reboot Microsoft Teams, it might work. But that would require us having to take an intermission. So I would recommend that we would do that at lunch. Does all that make sense?
Yes, Mr. Pelham.
Mr. Moody, just a couple of questions to staff. Kind of twofold. One, I understand it seems like a growing complaint because if I look at the dates on the invoices that are considered to be inappropriately charged or overcharged, those are dated 23 and 24.
Correct.
So there's quite some time. I know policies that I'm familiar with, if someone doesn't raise a challenge to what those charges are within 90, 120, 180 days, then by our utility policies, they would not be considered by the board. Has this complaint gone to the board, one, and followed whatever the local policy before a complaint would come before us? And second, does their policy at Rocky Top actually allow charging someone for services that they didn't have an open account for? Because that's the way I understand the complaint, right? The 1,049 primary complaint, the landowner was charged for vandalism and theft caused by a tenant because he normally, if I read all the information, he was charged $50 for a 3-day cleanup, and that was separate to this. Is that accurate?
I can't say that they do have that policy. That would be something we need to ask specifically. It's unfortunate. I would hope that they could answer that. I'm sure that they have, but I don't have that answer for that policy.
To me, I would take exception on the utility, and I'm the utility manager, so
Sure.
I would normally deal with these complaints when they come in for our utility. But I would have a hard time holding a landowner responsible for damage done to or done by a tenant, especially if the agreement that I had for service was in the tenant's name and it wasn't internal to the landowners.
And I think we, in our discussions about this as well, I think there may need to be your question about the policy as well as that tenant, how their service was set up. Did they clearly have service to that address at one point? And then at what time was that theft? When did that take place? I think those are two questions that I wish we were able to ask them that I just don't know the exact answer to.
If I may make one other comment, in my opinion, the 3 old invoices would be, I don't know that there's a true statute of limitations, but that's hard to bring up something from years ago if you didn't challenge it at that time.
Sure.
This one, I do have heartburn with charging $1,049 to a landowner if the account was not in their name, you didn't have an agreement to serve with them, and now I'm charging somebody else for a tenant's theft and vandalism.
Mr. Perky?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with my colleague. Also, a couple other questions, Ben, that I would be interested in. Does the Rocky Top, City of Rocky Top, have an internal policy that deals with this on either handling things like this at the manager level or taking it to the board? We do at Morristown Utility System, and we do, not routinely, but occasionally, we handle large water loss situations, whatever causes them at the board level. So those would be my 2 questions.
Yeah, and again, I'm not 100% sure on that policy. What I've been told, I've spoken with Rocky Top, and I hate to speak for them because I'm sure they may be listening on to this and have something to add to it. But what I have, they were advised, I believe, by their legal counsel that we can go forward with charging that. And I would assume maybe there is some policy there that they're standing on, but I don't know that 100%. So in this case today, it may be a thing where we need to get a couple questions answered to be able to maybe help make a better decision for the board.
Mr. Chair, if I may, given that we're not able to hear the folks from the utility or the complainant, would the board find it appropriate, based on what I'm hearing from the board, that if upon board staff getting all this information, that they have charged the landowner despite not being the name on the account, that we pretty much use, if that were to be the case, they need to refund the landowner. Now, if that were to not be the case, then we'll bring this up in December with the new information.
Mr. Chair, I completely agree. If the account was in the landowner's name, then the landowner, in my opinion, is responsible. If the account was in the tenant's name, the tenant is responsible, and I don't see how you can justify holding a landowner responsible for someone else's account.
Right.
Therefore, I think what you're saying is completely acceptable.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendations on this complaint. Any further discussion? None being, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Ben. All right, the next complaint with Saltillo Utility District. I believe Nate is going to present this one, if you will.
Mr. Ralston, one thing with that, and I make sure that did not address the 3 old bills in any way. We're just
Correct. Yeah.
no action on those.
Correct.
Good morning, board. If you will turn to page 199, that is the start of the Saltillo Utility District complaint. It's my understanding that both parties are here today, so I'll definitely give them the opportunity, 5 minutes to each speak on this complaint. Just a little bit of a background. Mr. Walker reached out to board staff a little while ago. He was having issues with obtaining services for essentially an industrial RV park that he wanted to install within the Saltillo Utility District service area. I'll let them speak more about this, but it's currently board staff's understanding the crux of the complaint essentially falls down to a capacity issue by the utility district. I don't really have a lot more to add at this time, but if it is the board's will, I will invite Mr. Walker up here to present for the board for 5 minutes.
Please do.
My name's Ben Walker. I'm the current leasee of Saltillo Marina and RV. This has been a marina for about 1960. It's had, from what I've been told from old timers, it's hard to acquire information on some of these backwoods projects. It's about a 35-acre commercial property. We pay commercial taxes on it. There is a water meter on the property. I've been told it's been replaced a couple times since flooding and stuff, but I've been told that we cannot get water here because they don't have the capacity. They're denying people water meters left and right. There's been rumors that there have been some other water meters put in for people of interest, such as mayor's kinfolk. I don't have that in writing. That's hearsay. But what I'm here for is I've got a property that I'm paying $1.5 million for. It has 35 RV lots. I've cut it down from 50. They're riverfront on the Tennessee River. I've lost about $100,000 in revenue this year because I don't have water. That's why I'm here.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, so when you purchased the property, did they tell you that you had water available, or did you make that decision before knowing that answer?
Yes. The current owner of the property, who I'm leasing from at the moment, it's a lease to purchase agreement, has given me multiple verbal and written deals saying that he had water there, there's been water there, there's a meter there. Saltillo Water District has told me that they will turn the water meter on, but it will only cover the house trailer at the entrance of the property, and I cannot use water past that trailer to any more of the 30 acres. Now, just to give you a ballpark idea of how much water a RV park would use, the average daily usage of an RV is between 5 and 30 gallons of water. The average consumption of a cow is about 30 gallons of water a day. So I can put 30 head of cattle out there and suck down between 900 and 1,500 gallons of water out there and use the same meter. But what I don't want to do is put cows in Brandon's backyard. And I'm not here to make this, I don't want to be personal. He's my neighbor. Great dude. He's got a great family. I'm not here to make this personal. But I've got a family to feed. I'm not $1 million corporation. I'm just trying to make a living. We've hauled probably 15 dump truck loads of trash out of there from prior people. We're trying to do our best to clean the community up and do our part. But we can't do it. I can't fork out that type of money and not be able to say we've got potable water. I can't even rent to most RV people without saying we have potable water on the property. So that's where I'm at.
I'm going to ask a question,
Mr. Pella.
and maybe I misunderstood from Bruce's question. The Saltillo Utility District, you spoke to them before you bought the property,
Yes.
and they said you had water availability before you made the decision? Or if I understood you, you said
I
the
went before the water
landowner.
board, and they told me they would turn the meter on that is on the property, but only for the house at the, there's a double wide trailer at the entrance of the marina. It used to be kind of like an office. They said I can use that meter for that residence and cannot extend past that building for any service. I can't hook my camper up to it next to it, can't wash a car 25 foot down there. I've been told that my water would be shut off and I'd be fined for breach of contract.
Do you feel like the Saltillo Utility District misled you, or was it the property owner that you are doing the lease purchase with that you feel like you were misled with?
They have not been, Saltillo Water District has not been misleading to me, but there has been some conduct around our community that has made things feel quite shady, and I don't appreciate it. There have been comments that I've heard hearsay from behind my back that just make me wonder, are they not turning the water on because they don't want business back in town? Or are they, because, I mean, there's people who've said, hey, I've been waiting for a meter for 4 years. I've been on a waiting list. We're at capacity. And then another individual gets a meter put in.
Mr. Perky, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Walker, just to the chairman's point for clarification. You appeared at the board
Yes, sir.
after you entered the agreement for the property.
No, sir.
Okay.
This was all at the same time of, hey, look, I'm interested in the property. Let's get this going. I go down there, hey, I need water. The owner of the property says, you have water. I've used this water for the past 20 years, minus a couple years due to flood damage. The 2019 flood took out the marina. I'm not asking for water to supply the 52 RV spots that were there. And at this moment, there is no marina left there. That's an $8 million project down the road. I'm just asking that I am able to use the meter that is on the property to supply my 35 spots so that I can make my mortgage note.
But is it fair to say that you entered into the agreement before or after the utility board let you know that they would not do it?
I was already on a contract with the property when I had the meeting with Brandon, but I was told by the property owner that I had water.
What about the utility board? Did they deny the service after you had entered the
Yes.
agreement? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Vanisdale, you're recognized.
I was just curious, did the utility board suggest any alternatives to you, or have you looked into the possibility of drilling your own well or any other source of water?
Well, from what I've been told, I can't use well water unless I have my own purification system to meet the quantity that I would need. Like I said, I don't know much about drilling wells. All I know is there's water on the property and I'd like to have access to it. And, you know, like I was using the cows for an example. If I had that trailer right now and I had that meter turned on in all my legal rights, I could put a trough on the front porch and feed my cattle off that and suck down more water than any RV park of that size would use. And it's not bringing any revenue to the community.
And they haven't given you any proposed costs to do any upgrades to get you water?
Nope. They've mentioned that they're at capacity, they would need to add wells and redo their water stuff, but I've not been told any prices on like, hey, we need this from you so that we can. It's just like, nope, you can turn it on for your trailer.
So it's your understanding that the town's at capacity, there is no new connections to be able to be approved?
Correct.
The utility district here?
The utility district is here, yes.
Can I ask if they enacted a moratorium, and then when I look through these, with respect to TDEC, are they under any other notice of violation, enforcement actions as far as Saltillo, water quality, stage twos? I mean, do we know any other issues why Saltillo would be limited or restricted?
I apologize. I don't know about the NOVs for Saltillo.
I will say board staff isn't aware of any NOVs, but I think that would be appropriate to ask the gentleman from the Saltillo Utility District. If there are no further questions for the complainant, I think it would be wise to bring him up here.
I think we're ready for the utility district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if y'all wouldn't mind to introduce yourselves, and you'll be given 5 minutes to speak.
My name is Darrell Green, and I'm a contract operator with the city of Saltillo, or with the actual Saltillo Utility District, and have been doing work for them in that operator capacity since about 2002.
I'm Brandon Harrington with Saltillo Utility District. I've been the operator there for about almost 23 years. I don't know where to start, honestly. There's been a lot of misinformation thrown out here.
Well, I
So-
think we could start by asking some questions if
Okay,
you're okay
go
with
ahead.
that, Mr.
So,
Pelham.
number one, there is an existing meter on this property.
There is an existing meter on this property, 3/4 inch service line, 5/8 water meter. It's the only service that has ever been on this property. It has served a double wide trailer that the previous property owners used to live in while operating the marina. The marina did not require any water. It was just boat slip rentals. May have some campsites there in the past. To the utility's knowledge, we have never approved an RV park there, and frankly, a 75 lot development, a 52 lot development, or a 35 lot development, it couldn't be served with a 5/8 meter anyway. It's just not possible. I mean, your average water usage is 100 gallons a day per person. So to say that, you've got a water meter there, well, yeah, you do have a water meter there. He does have access to that meter. But the utility is not going to allow someone to tie onto a 3/4 inch service line and a 5/8 water meter and try to serve a 52 lot or a 35 lot development. And it goes against policy. Our policy clearly states 1 meter per residence. And to break the rules for Mr. Walker would set a precedence.
Mr. Chair, so when you're referring to this as residents, is there intent for this to be long-term setup, or is this transient hookups for campers? Those are two completely different things.
Mr. Walker has not presented the utility with any kind of written plans, any kind of drawings, any kind of engineering. He approached me. It's my understanding in his complaint, he leased this property in April of 25. He approached me in June of 25 and said, hey, I'm leasing a property and I want the meter turned on so I can serve a 52 lot development and start renting it out. And I told him that's against policy and that he would need to bring that before the board at its July meeting. So he did not consult with the utility before entering into any kind of lease agreement or anything else. And we haven't seen a lease agreement. It's my understanding, and I may be wrong, but I've been told that he is renting this property by the month for $600 a month. But we have not seen any lease agreement on the property. We have not seen any engineering, any drawings, other than verbal that he wants to develop this property into an RV park and that he wants enough water to serve it.
And Board Chair, if I may, before we go to another question from a board member, I want us to bear in mind that, essentially the remedy that's being sought is allowing the customer the service that he's requesting from the utility. So we would what this board is currently considering is if we should order the Saltillo Utility District to provide the service that the customer is requesting. That is the remedy that's being sought. And so keep that in mind as you're listening to what comes up moving forward. And if y'all have some sort of recommendation that's different from that, just keep that in mind.
Ms. Vanisdale.
I agree with you. You would want to individually meter connections potentially in your system, but can you talk to us about the capacity challenge and what denial, if any, has been given to this owner?
Darryl will take that.
Yes, Saltillo sits right on the Tennessee River. We have our system serves along the Tennessee River. We have a well system that was put in at the time when the garment factory was there at Saltillo. We currently have 3 wells, and those wells, we had a professional well driller do testing on the wells. Wells do interact with each other. They've listed in what the capacity of those wells would be. And because we're in an area where there's a lot of rock, it's not a question of drilling more wells. If we drilled any additional wells at the current location, they wouldn't yield any more capacity than what we currently have. So we would have to actually go to a totally different site somewhere else and try to develop capacity. We do have a number of people who have wanted to do, when they say, well, we have denied service to people before. We have other developments that want to develop 40 lots here, 75 lots there, 100 lots here. You know, our neighboring utility allowed development such as that to the point that they ran completely out of capacity and had to build an expensive treatment plant out on the river in the Tennessee River alluvial deposits, and which is very high in iron and manganese, so it's not really practical in our location. We just don't have the alluvial deposit available, so we have a limited amount of supply. We do have a number of water lines and developments that occurred prior to knowing what the actual capacity was. And since we've found out we have a capacity issue, that's when they decided not to allow any more development. Because if you do it for one, you would have to do it for them all.
Is there any sort of long-term plan in place to be able to grow your community? And can you tell me a little bit about number of customers and who are these 3 wells serving currently?
So currently, our system has 852 customers. We have about 60 miles of distribution line. We serve the town of Saltillo and several surrounding communities out in the county. We're not under a moratorium from the state. We are still making taps on our existing mains. We're still serving customers within our existing service area. I've got 5 new taps to make next week. So we're not denying taps within our existing service area. What the board has cut off is extending any mains or serving any new large developments. We don't want to get to the point where the state steps in and places a moratorium. We're trying to be proactive. We have looked at some potential areas to maybe drill some new wells, but we currently don't own any property. And there's no guarantee that we're going to get any good water anywhere we drill. Our closest neighboring utility is the town of Adamsville. They're a lot larger than we are in size. They are at capacity. They're having trouble servicing their service area. They're having pressure drops below 20 psi. They are out looking, they're drilling test wells now looking for some additional water on property that they don't even own. And so far, they haven't been successful. We don't want to be in that situation.
Ross, do you have a...
Yeah, I just have 2 clarifying questions. You're saying that y'all have been made aware that you do have capacity issues? And that's just from looking at what surrounding utilities have
Right. There's two issues with capacity. One is the well supply itself. Well, you know, the state requires you to produce your maximum day with the largest unit out of service. If you do that, we're already at capacity. And if you take and look at the setup of the system, water's pumped from the wells through kind of a header where the chlorine is added, and then there's a certain distance of pipe prior to the first customer. And if we start, even if we had more capacity at that site, we wouldn't be able to meet the CT time for disinfection.
So is the utility's intent not to explore options to be able to stop denying service to those who request it?
We have required the services of Allen and Hoschel, and they have done a preliminary look at that, and that's something that would be addressed in long term, but that's not something we're going to be able to solve today.
So question, if I understand just rough calculations, you can actually produce about 445,000 gallons a day, but because of the state calculation, and I'm not a well guy, I don't understand, but because of the state calculation, about 235 is when, because you take that one major well out of commission when you do your calculation. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
Well, do the math for me then, please.
Okay. Our largest well will only produce 220 gallons, 250 gallons a minute. If we pumped it at 250 gallons a minute, we would violate the contact time rule. So we would be in violation of that. So we have that well right now throttled back at 160 gallons a minute, which is 230,000 gallons a day.
Right.
We cannot run these wells all together. The well test, the drawdown test verified this. When we turn this largest well on, if it's not throttled, it starts pumping mud. And then the water levels in the other two start dropping dangerously low. So we cannot run all these wells together.
Mr. Perky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of clarifying questions, if I could. You serve Saltillo, the city of Saltillo. Yes. Your closest, your next big entity is Adamsville.
Correct.
They have capacity issues.
Correct.
Is
And
that,
supply.
is that fair to say?
Yes.
So you're not in a position that you could buy water from Adamsville with an extension?
Absolutely not.
Okay. What about Hardin County? Do they have planning regulations?
The county does not.
Does not have planning?
They don't have zoning. The
They don't
county
have
doesn't
zoning and planning. I understand. And just to clarify again, I'm sorry I went to the restroom, but I caught this as I was coming in. You are actively looking for other well sites?
We have looked at some additional well sites, but a lot of this comes down to cost. Who's going to pay for this? We have 850 customers. Our base water bills are $7.53 a month. These people will have a stroke. If we had to go borrow $26 million to build a new plant on the river to guarantee that we're going to get some water, it's not feasible. We couldn't pay for it.
I understand.
In fact, if the state paid for it and gave it to us, I don't know that we could afford to operate it or pay fund depreciation on it.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Pelham.
Mr. Moody, just a couple questions, make sure I understood, because if I'm trying to listen, I feel like maybe contradicted. You said you are restricting services to new developments, but you said you have 5 new taps to set. You've not approved this one, and if he's not brought a plan of development and said, here's what I'm asking for in GPM or pressure, that's a different question. But if you state that your capacity is limited, you're restricting development, but you're still selling taps, how do you reconcile those things, or where is the line with which you would cease to, if you don't have a state-acted moratorium or something directed by the state, have you enacted a self-imposed moratorium, or where is that line? Because to me, that seems like a disconnect, that on one hand, we say we're restricting developments, we're not approving new taps, new services, and then if I understood you correctly, you said you have 5 new taps to set.
We do. We have 5 new residential taps.
So
to set.
where is that difference in the capacity availability if you're
If
restricting?
Mr. Walker's property, he's at the end of a street. The water main dead ends just short of his property. There's nowhere to set 75 taps, even if we want.
Regardless of him, I would ask you where the line is. If it's not a state-imposed moratorium, or you have a finite capacity due to your well limitations and pumping mud, if I understood you correctly.
Well,
so how many more taps could you serve if it was internal to what you would say, regardless of Mr. Walker's location? How many more taps could your existing infrastructure serve? And how do you reconcile that against, we're restricting development on one hand, but I have 5 taps to do next week on the other?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know how many more taps that our system can handle.
And so that would lead me to the question is, then how do you know when you've exceeded and now overcommitted what your system's capacity is? either from management or engineering position?
We're looking at daily pumpage reports and being right on the river, a recreational community. Every time we have a holiday weekend and things like that, we exceed the daily pumpage capacity, but we have 24-hour storage and water tanks. And so for a day or two, we
Well,
get by, but we are exceeding the actual, that
Respectfully,
200 something.
as a manager of utility, you just told me you already exceed what your maximum peak is, so you'd already enacted a self-imposed moratorium and said we will not sell any more to anyone. If I understood you, you just said you already are selling more on peak days than you can treat from the well. But then by the statement here, you don't have 24-hour storage on a peak day, which is a potential TDEC issue if you don't. And so that's why my question
TDEC
is
goes on
where is that?
80% average, and we're not exceeding 80%.
So you don't exceed 80% average on 24-hour, but on your peak day you do.
Right, but that's not a violation of TDEC's rules.
And so that was my question.
We
Then
are
where is
quickly
your line?
approaching. I wouldn't mind recommending to our board that we don't impose a self-imposed moratorium on taps. It wouldn't hurt my feelings a bit. I think it would, but I don't want to be drug up here at every board meeting when we start denying taps in areas that we already have existing mains either.
But you're denying any expansion for Mr. Walker.
That's a development.
That's a new
not-
development.
He has a meter, and under the current service policy, he could get water at that 5/8 meter for one residence. And he would be in compliance with the policy. But what we're denying is whether it be 35, whether it be 55, or whether it be 75 of the camping lots. If everybody on the river that owned property wanted the same, and if we provided it to him, we would have to provide the same level of service to all property owners.
And if I remove-
We could not do that.
And if I remove his request, I would just encourage evaluation or analysis that if I understood you correctly, on peak holidays, you're already exceeding that capacity. And if you're continued to sell new taps and commit additional capacity without addressing whether it be at the board level or at some level, you're only going to exacerbate that potential risk to the service to all the existing customers. So,
Right,
just a word
we've
of
got
caution.
Allen and Hoschel has looked at that, and they're continuing to be the engineer. Right now, they're working on the ARP projects, and then
Ross, do we have a board recommendation on this complaint?
Yeah, so after hearing everything, here is what staff would like to recommend. Because to go along with Mr. Pelham's comments, it seems like there is a self-imposed moratorium that sometimes isn't self-imposed. And so what board staff is understanding is that this gentleman was denied service just 'cause. And so we haven't heard, to the utilities credit, it appears that the gentleman hasn't come to say, I need XYZ from you. He just said, I want water. And so the utility denied that, but to the utility's credit, they don't really know what they denied because a full plan wasn't really submitted to the utility. So I don't want to close this customer complaint. Instead, what I think the recommendation should be is that we stay this for now, and we ask the customer to go to the utility with his exact demand of whatever it may need be. And then if that is then denied, it's going to be up to the utility to show why it was denied, other than this subjective moratorium. Because again, if a self-imposed moratorium is called for, but it's not imposed, I don't think that it can really be used as grounds to stand on. Now, if the utility is able to show they're asking for X amount of gallons a day, X amount of pressure, this kind of line, we can't support it, that's a whole different story. But right now, it just seems like a discussion needs to be furthered between the two parties. So I would ask that we don't take any action and ask the customer to go to the utility with a more full-fledged request, and then we can handle it from there.
I've got a question. Do we think that the Board of Commissioners of the South Little Utility District is overstepping its bounds by limiting access to new developments that we know we're not gonna be able to serve?
Is that for me? Personally, I don't think that a moratorium is a bad thing if you're ensuring service for your customers moving forward. However, I think that if there is a moratorium, work needs to be done to figure out how to get out of the moratorium. But if you're going to impose a moratorium and you're going to say we're not going to allow, these developments, then you should stop doing taps.
So you would recommend that we recommend to our Board of Commissioners that we stop doing any taps on any of our systems?
No. I would recommend that we get the math to figure out what the capacity issues and challenges actually are, because from what I understand of this conversation is that an engineering group was engaged to get a better idea of what the utility needs. I have no idea what the outcome of that engineering report says. So I would say that no, right now there is no position to say that y'all should have a moratorium. Again, I'm not against them, but you should use that as a sign of maybe we should start improving our system to ensure that our community can grow. However, I completely agree with you. Y'all could not afford a $26 million water treatment plant. Your current customers cannot afford that. But something tells me that there might be other options out there, and they should be explored instead of just saying, the wells we have right now are fine. Let's not worry about our capacity moving forward, because then you run into instances where this gentleman is trying to improve the community and he's being told that he can't, yet taps are being sold left and right to others just because they're not necessarily a development. And so when you want to look at the numbers and the math, you might be able to come to a conclusion that a moratorium is necessary.
I would argue we normally put in 15 to 20 taps a year. I would argue that that's not really putting in taps left and right.
Sir, if I might comment, you just stated that you're already consuming on peak days more than you're capable. So if you add 15 more homes.
That's what you said.
That's what the gentleman said.
I don't argue that fact. I agree.
Explain and there's no reason to get into a debate there. I would caution on your water loss percentage, the efficiency that you operate your system. But if you are already exceeding your peak day and you're denying some, and you've not enacted a publicly advertised limitation and a self-imposed moratorium, even if it's not by the state, it becomes very difficult to tell somebody no and somebody yes. And then how do you distinguish which one, whether it's the definition of a develop or a single tap, when you've already stated you're exceeding your peak day capacity as it is? And so that's where sound management would, in my opinion, would dictate the next step. And so you said 15 to 20 a year. You're only going to make that problem worse if you're not careful.
Ms. Vansdale, then Mr. Perky.
I think this is a very important issue that's been brought before this board, and we can't approve his request exactly what he's asking for today. But I agree, we need an engineering study to be completed. We need an actual policy, because I think what I heard him say is we approve new residential taps, but anything bigger that might be a large customer, and we don't approve any new large connections. I don't think it's reasonable for this gentleman to do an engineering study and create drawings and calculations if the board's already made a decision that we won't do anything besides a single residential tap. So I think their engineering needs to be completed, and you need to have a policy passed by your board that's in alignment with what the system can handle. And then furthermore, I question whether this is sort of TDEC territory in the capacity challenges and ensuring the long-term viability of, and safety and water availability and affordability for the customers that are already being served. Because you're getting dangerously close to not being able to supply your existing customers, and the logic behind who to connect and who not to connect is unclear right now. I'd like to see you guys clean all that up, and I think it sounds like you're doing a good job. You're doing the best you can, but you don't seem to have a lot of good options right now. And I think more information might bring forward options that you haven't considered yet.
Mr. Perky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope that you would leave here understanding that we're not your adversary, but we are charged by statute with being a venue for a fair presentation from all sides about what the issue is. And let me ask you if it'd be fair to say this. You can't afford a water plant. You can't buy from Adamsville. They've got issues and maybe some distance issues. And you're looking for wells, but you're not necessarily convinced that that would help you a lot. Then it would seem to me that you need more storage. Is that fair to say?
Well, we need more supply and storage, both.
And is you saying that that the utility needs more supply and storage your opinion or the opinion of an engineering firm? The engineering firm that y'all mentioned earlier that you engaged.
They haven't completed a complete engineering report on the, they know we have a limited capacity, but as far as an overall plan for the system, that has not been complete yet.
Do you know when that would be completed?
We'll have to talk with Allen and Hochul.
So when y'all engaged Allen and Hochul, y'all didn't put in, just a timeline of when you would like to see some sort of report. What was the request made to them?
The request was made to them to look at the capacity issue, and that we're only addressing that at the time, and then with the ARP, we did change the scope of what they're currently doing to address generators for the wells so that we wouldn't have any downtime in the event of a power outage.
And y'all are using the ARP money for that? Is that what you just said? Okay.
Mr. Giles, you're recognized.
So just a curiosity question. So you all are capable of serving the 3/4 inch meter that's on the property and are willing to do that. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We just want to allow him.
Right. So has there been consideration for using more of an alternative solution, much like are used in a lot of the campgrounds where there's a field station that would serve the RVs as they come and go? Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, that's what a lot of campgrounds do. So you serve through a 3/4 inch, you let them fill their tanks, and as they exit, they take it with them. Therefore, it kind of solves your issue of capacity and the pull on your system, for lack of a better term.
We had provided Mr. Walker with an application of service and told him we'd be happy to activate that service. He just couldn't hook a 75 lot development up to it. We didn't restrict how many gallons he could use out of that 5/8 meter.
Thank you. Just curious. Thanks.
So you would approve if he wanted to turn it on right now and just had a fill station or a frost-free hydrant spigot, and then as RVs came and went, the separate that they weren't connected hardline to his side, either have a backflow preventer or reduce pressure?
Well, I guess that would be a board decision, but to my knowledge, that we don't have any policy that would prevent him from doing that.
I'm sorry.
I don't see that there would be a problem with that.
So with that, board, I think that we have had decent discussion on this one. And so board staff would just continue with the recommendation that we do not close this complaint. We implore the customer to readjust his request to the utility, see if the utility will accept or deny his more fleshed out request. And then from there, if that's denied, then we'll continue under the current complaint.
Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept staff suggestion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendation on this complaint. Any further discussion? None being, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
One opposed.
One opposed. Motion carries.
Well, let's talk about impeccable timing, board. It is currently 11:29, which is when we would break for lunch. And so, Chairman, I am going to ask that we go into recess and we take a 30-minute lunch break. That cool? So we'll reconvene at noon.
We are in recess until noon o'clock. All right, I call the meeting back to order.
All right. Well, board, we have made it through the customer complaints, which was going to be the longest part of the agenda, so I'm happy about that. You'll see that the next item moves to the manager cases, starting with the Fall Creek Falls Utility District. However, we still have some folks that are here to appear on behalf of Centerville and the City of Friendship, which is in the West Tennessee part of the packet. So if it's okay with the board, I would like to go out of order and take up the town of Centerville next, in which I would invite Nate to introduce the case and then ask any representative from them to come to the board.
That is perfectly fine. Please move forward.
Appreciate it, Ross. As Ross mentioned, this is for the town of Centerville. We had a customer complaint last year regarding the charge for sewer for non-sewer customers who had access to the sewer line. And it was the board's determination that they required a rate study by a third-party expert to review the policies provided by the town, the fees charged by the town, and to follow back up on what would be considered reasonable and justifiable. The issue is that the town, at no fault of their own, has run into an issue where the third-party expert that was contracted just hasn't been able to perform the study yet. The study was due in December 31st of 2024. I granted them a 6-month extension per the order, which ran out in June 30th of 2025. They still have not completed the study at this time. You can see a letter from Mr. Eric Spencer with MTAS explaining that they're running behind and not able to complete the study. So essentially, I do want to highlight 2 issues with the current complaint. One is that Ms. Kreitz no longer lives in the town. She was the original complainant. She left without paying a final balance. The second item is that the town still charges both a minimum bill and usage for sewer for customers who have access but are not connected. And so even though Ms. Kreitz no longer remains within the town and is no longer a customer of the town of Centerville, it is board staff's belief that it is important to continue this case in determining the reasonableness of the utilities fees. Again, we stress that we feel that or it is our opinion that the current fee structure is in direct conflict with the opinion of the Office of the Attorney General 98-152, which basically outlines that a utility system should not impose usage fees for customers who are not connected to sewer but have access to sewer. However, a minimum bill may be assessed, and that's essentially a summary of the Attorney General's opinion. I do believe that there is a representative of the town of Centerville here. I believe it's the attorney, and so if it is the board's will, I will invite him up for a 5-minute period to speak. And if you don't mind, just state your name.
Mr. Chairman, Board, I'm Andrew Mills. My firm serves as the town attorney for Centerville. Thank you for allowing me to address this issue today. Just as a brief recap, the last order that we've been operating under was an amended order entered September 5th, 2024. There were 3 components of that order. The first was that the town had to enter into a contract with a qualified entity to create a rate study. And they did that, provided that to staff, as I understand. That's with MTAS. The second component of that was providing it to staff. And then the third was we had to have a completed rate study. We do not have that rate study to date. There's been turnover with MTAS staff. I know the reference was made to the October 8th letter. Mr. Spencer has told us he is taking over this project. He has given us an approximate timeline. The timeline is approximately 45 days for the town to complete its internal assessment of all properties that would be within this study, whether they actually have connected to the system or not. They need that first, and then MTAS needs an additional 45 days to complete the study. So if I may, our request today is that an order be entered, whether amended or new, that we would provide a status update to this board on December 11th, that there would be a deadline to provide the completed study at least a month before the March meeting, so I'll say mid-February, and that we would come back to this board at its March meeting to discuss the findings of that study. We feel confident that we can meet that deadline now that we have assurances from MTAS that someone is on it. He's given direction to the town of what information he needs. The town feels good about gathering that information in that time frame, so we feel good about having a study done by the middle of February. So that is our request today. Happy to answer any questions.
Pelham.
My question is not directly to the gentleman here, but maybe to Mr. May. Can you expound a little bit on the OAG 98-152 opinion? Because the way that I understood, as Nate just stated it, would disagree with the way I have had personal experience with a lot of towns. I think a lot of towns are going to have a similar policy to what has been referenced for Centerville here. And so if we follow the order of, or the recommendation of staff and cease until it's done, do we potentially open a can of worms and a precedent where we're telling other municipalities that have a similar policy and create a conflict? So I guess some clarification on that OAG policy.
This is the variable sewer fee, right? Yeah. In this case, the town of Centerville has a variable sewer fee. The sewer fee changes changes with water usage. So even though the customers are not using more sewer for services as they use water, their sewer fee still varies with their water consumption. And so our position is not that an access fee can't be charged, but that it shouldn't be variable. It shouldn't vary with water usage.
And to add to that, to what you said, Mr. Pelham, I understand what you're saying about opening a can of worms. It's our experience that the majority of utilities that charge sewer to customers that have access but aren't hooked on to the wastewater system, they are not done in a variable manner. It is a flat, you get. Yeah, and so there are some out there, and it opens a tiny can of worms, not a giant can of worms. And so it's just our perspective that it's poor practice to charge someone variably for something that isn't variable. And so we are recommending that they cease the practice because we don't believe it's reasonable and just. We find that it's reasonable and just to charge an access fee because you could access it if you want it. But there's no reason that your fee should change based on a service that you're not using. So we're saying that because we don't believe that it's reasonable and just, that the ball is in the court of the utility to prove that it's reasonable and just to charge someone variably for a service that they're not receiving. So we're asking them to cease the practice of the variable rate until they can prove through the rate study that it's acceptable.
Mr. Giles.
So do we have an opinion on how this is going to affect bond covenants and lots of the other finance options that have been put out over the year? Because I, like Mr. Pelham, not to be argumentative to you all, know significant number of utilities who do both of these. Whether philosophically I agree with it or not, this practice is going on and has for the last, my 35 years across the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, so like in this specific instance, we're not telling Centerville, hey, you're not allowed to charge these customers anything. We're just asking for them to stop charging it variably. And so if they were to look up and they say, all of our sewer customers on average, they're paying us $50 a month. They're more than welcome to set that minimum bill at $50 a month, but they can't charge, $30 and then say you're going to have to pay us $10 $1,000 if someone isn't hooked onto the utility. However, because they still have the ability to charge people something, it shouldn't have any impact on bond covenants.
And once again, not trying to be argumentative, I'm just thinking from personal experience that I've seen, most sewer rates, because you don't meter sewer, I don't know of a good sewer metering practice that would be dependable and robust, but it's based, your sewer bill is based on the water consumption, and so it's either a fixed rate times that consumption number and a minimum for whatever your overhead administrative fee would be for bill production, et cetera. And so my concern more so and above this is, are you now telling all of these other jurisdictions, do you open up that they go and seek restitution for saying we've been overcharged? Do you change a lot of public policy that's out there if we go ahead and give a precedent that says cease it now because we think it's unfair and unjust?
Yeah, potentially. Potentially this is allowing people to look at, say, we may have been overcharged in the past because that was an unreasonable or unjust rate. Because in my opinion, it is unreasonable and unjust. Again, you should be allowed to charge something, but it shouldn't be based on how much water you're using.
Mr. Smith, you're recognized.
Just to clarify, these charges are for access to sewer, but sewer is not being used at that residence at that time.
Correct.
So even though they're using water, they're not using sewer. They're on a septic tank or something like that, right? So it doesn't apply to those that are using the sewer.
Correct.
If we rule that this town should not do it based on variable, and we know that others are doing it in a variable rate for those that are not hooked on to sewer, do we make those other towns do that as well? Or can we do that?
We could, because the statute allows us to, we're charged with reviewing the reasonableness and justness of fees. So we could go after everyone that isn't doing this according to this ruling, okay? But right now, we don't have a method in knowing who is doing this and who isn't, other than just the ones that we've heard are doing it. So we would be relying on individuals making a complaint, which is how we got here to get to that point. I just think that this is kind of a big crossroads when it comes to a principle. And so on principle, is it the belief of this board that when it comes to the utility service you receive, should it be based on what you use? I argue yes. You should pay for what you use. And I understand that this could put a lot of people in a difficult position because now you have customers that get charged based on variable they're not hooked on. You're going to have to do a rate study, cost of service study to figure out what that minimum bill needs to be your sewer access fee. And you need to stop charging people for what they're. And the thing is, it may work out to where every customer is kind of paying the same, but it's the principle on what is right when it comes to a rate being just and reasonable.
And Mr. Chair, I don't disagree with anything you said, but I personally know of some of the best legal minds in the state who disagree with that altogether and say that they have the legal right to do so. That's why I'm just making sure we understand when we go down this road that there is going to be question as to whether or not that interpretation of the AG's opinion is correct or not. So.
And if the board doesn't mind, I can read the opinion from the AG's office, just the brief summary portion. I should have been included in your packet. I do apologize that. But the question was raised regarding the city of Manchester back in 1998 that led to this opinion by the AG's office. And the AG's opinion is that the city of Manchester, depending upon the facts and circumstances of its water system finances, may not be authorized by state law to bill a resident whose house is on a street served by a city water a monthly user fee equal to the average water service. But state law would generally authorize the cities charging the resident a ready-to-serve charge of some minimum amount bearing a relationship to the actual cost of the water department's standing ready to serve that resident.
So all of that to say is I don't disagree. I'm sure someone's going to be very angry about this decision, and I welcome it because we need to do what's right. And charging someone a variable fee when they're not receiving a service is insane, and someone needs to say that it's not okay.
Ms. Vanisdale.
Well, I agree with the staff recommendation, and I would make a motion to approve it.
So, Ms. Vanisdale, thank you for that. However, the one thing that we haven't considered is the request made by the representative of Centerville, kind of just giving them an extension to get it done because of the turnover and everything. So I would like to amend the staff recommendation to what you just motioned, which is tell them you can't charge this. It needs to be a minimum bill. But also, I don't have a problem right now the staff recommendation is they have until December 31st to send us the rate study, which I think goes along with, you wanted 45 days past the middle of December. Is that what you asked for?
So it's going to be 45 days to finish the analysis of which properties are actually using versus not.
Yeah.
And then it's 45 days for MTAS to complete their study.
So like
of
middle
evaluation.
of February, it's fine.
Yeah, I was
So
going to ask for middle of February, and we review this at the March meeting.
I'm fine with that. So board staff would like to amend the staff recommendation, and hopefully Ms. Banisdale is willing to still give me a motion on that, to just, instead of December 31st, we'll say Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Yeah, I accept that.
Mr. Perky.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, we're doing this on this one case. It may affect others. We know that, but, I just want to make sure the record reflects that we're doing this on this one case and not as a, although, I agree with Ross. But I would think if we done it wholesale, that we would want some type of look at it first to see how many it would affect. But I'm supportive of the motion. I just wanted to clarify that it is for this one case.
Are you supportive in that you're doing a second?
Well, sure. I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the amended board staff recommendation. Any further discussion? Mr. Pelham?
I do. I once again, I agree with the premise behind it. I guess I just know a lot of small city communities, and I think back at least to my history and training to the evolution and creation of the Clean Water Act, the way that a lot of municipal sewer systems began, and I can think of one that we've recently taken over that I've had to personally deal with a customer who comes in and they're upset that they're paying a sewer bill. They sell their property. And the realtor assumes, you know what assuming does, that they have sewer to this property. And then I learn as a new manager that the history of this property, when sewer was made available, they had a effective operating septic tank. They declined to pay a connection fee, tap fee, service fee, but then the subsidizing of that entire municipal sewer system was based upon a total number of users. And I have been personally given the legal advice that the law substantiated being able to charge those fees. I understand the fixed minimum versus the variable for the actual consumption. And so I'm torn between opposing legal advices between what I know internal to the system that we now operate and charge. And so I personally would be in violation of this. So I don't know that I could, and I say that, we just have to go back and do a rate study and change to a fixed number and then an adjustable, and we're in the middle of a cost study with Jackson Thornton myself. So don't come throw the book at me just yet, Ross. My point is it is contrary to legal advice that I've been given in my personal utility situation. Sure. And so it gives me some heartburn and some pause there.
Mr. Jones.
I could support it.
And operationally, a whole other set of issues are going to develop because in multiple situations like that, there is no way to validate whether or not, without a full scale of, our system's 110,000 people. And I have people who I guarantee will be in the same situation, and almost no way to validate whether or not that's occurring. So what could happen in 3 years? Someone finds out their septic tank's failing. We show that a realtor sold a house and the same situation, and then they come back and they want me to pay them back for 10 years. Well, that's not a feasible option as well. But so just throwing that out there.
Further discussion? Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you. Is it possible that the rate study could come back with a recommendation that the fees being charged are not the recommendation going forward, but still that a fee or a flat fee may still be a valid type of fee used? So rather than recommending they cease the policy of charging usage fees now, could we propose waiting to cease that until the rate study's completed and then make a decision.
Correct. So, and that is our hope, is that the rate study comes back with that in mind to provide a updated flat fee for the sewer minimum charge. The reason for the staff recommendation today is that this complaint was brought before the board, I think, over a year ago now. And so I hate to kind of just sit on it while waiting on a third-party expert to complete the rate study when board staff believes that there is a violation of an attorney general's opinion happening. So that was the reason for the recommendations. I am not necessarily opposed to waiting until the rate study comes back, but I would still stand by the recommendations that have been made currently.
Mr. Hampton, you're recognized.
Chair, can we direct the staff to do a survey of the utility districts on who is doing this, have a similar situation, so that we do understand what our exposure is?
Does the staff do regular surveys, or could they do a survey?
Yeah, we can. We can do anything y'all want.
That does not mean necessarily you would get a response from everybody.
Yeah, well,
Correct.
Well, I understand that, but at least we can find out if it's
No, we can.
3 versus 50. You know,
There's 550-ish systems in the state of Tennessee, and I don't know how you would validate the numbers, not to be argumentative. I don't even know how some systems would answer those questions.
because when I worked at CUD, Eagleville had this similar. Was getting a USDA grant, and they were doing this similar thing, and they set up a flat fee for the entities that were not on sewer, as a way to fund the expansion of sewer in their town. So I understand how everyone. I'm not legally saying either one is right, but at least we have a casual survey to understand where we are.
It's a consideration. I can just use me as an example, excuse my turn speaking, but we're looking at it as an ongoing cost of service assessment that's going on right now. But for that, as we've taken over a system, I will have to go to every individual one and then either double check, because ours is a pressure system. If it has a grinder pump, that's easy to determine, right? But if it is on a gravity with a septic tank, and you've already got say in that case, they built it in the 70s or 80s and they stubbed a clean out that's capped, and then the existing hard line from the house goes to a septic tank, without digging up and seeing or do dye testing or a substantial labor investment, you would have to just about flush every commode and see if you're actually getting it to the next downstream manhole to test it. And so some of them, like me, I didn't even know that this person wasn't hooked up. They've been charging a bill. I inherited it. This person comes. And what they wanted is they wanted me to put in a new grinder system, and they wanted me to tie in everything at our expense for something I inherited that was completely, benign to me.
And we're in the same situation. That's my biggest concern, is if when we find them, we take them off completely, and it occasionally occurs. However, if I look at the difference in my water system, my water customers and my sewer customers, there is a difference. And somewhere in that middle, I'm assuming I've got several hundred, but I don't know that, and I'm not going to be able to CCTV a whole system just to go validate what candidly is the homeowner's responsibility. If a homeowner brings it to me, I'll make an adjustment. But I feel like to a certain extent it is there, which is a whole different issue. But
So let me ask you. So what you're saying is, right now in your system, let's say I'm a homeowner and I'm being charged sewer, a flat fee and a variable fee. So I get a complete sewer bill. And then I find out I'm on septic. If I come to you and tell you that, what happens?
I take you off completely.
So here, they don't take them off.
Okay.
And so that's what we're trying to get away. Like, we're trying to get utilities to start recognizing, because here's the thing, I completely agree with y'all. Telling everyone you have to stop doing this for everyone who is currently, it's impossible. And so we're just trying to get to the point where if someone were to go to Centerville and say, why am I being charged variable? I'm not on the system. That Centerville says, oh, you're right. So now you just have to pay this $35 a month flat fee. And so that's what we're trying, because a lot of places wouldn't give that consideration.
Seth?
There's been some concern about having to pay 10 years of what somebody might perceive as 10 years of overages, or overages over a period of time. The board determines what's just and reasonable when determining a remedy for each situation, and that's not just from the point of view of the customer, that's also from the point of view of the utility. So a reasonable remedy could be that that a utility cut somebody's or change somebody's fee from variable to flat fee moving forward, but not order they pay any sort of reimbursement for past fees.
Which, Mr. Chair, I find much more reasonable and applicable than you showing up and you've been charged a sewer fee for 15 years and I had absolutely no idea and want me to refund you $9 or $10 or $15,000. That's just not doable.
Mr. Perky.
Mr. Chairman, let me ask my colleague, are you still comfortable with your motion as is, or are you open to a slight revision or two from staff?
To incorporate Mr. Giles' comment that they wouldn't be required to refund any that they found that were not connected, that they've been charged for, yes, I'd accept that revision.
Is that acceptable to staff?
How would we word that there, Seth? What do you think? Cool.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for clarity, because walking out of here, I need to be able to tell Centerville what they need to do. So
We're trying to get there.
right. So just so I'm aware, we're not going to wait until March to impose this order.
Assuming
Assuming the board votes that way. Obviously, it's the will of the board. But the two salient details I've heard that may be part of what Mr. Seth is putting together is known properties. You don't have to go out and find everybody, though that's what Centerville's doing right now. They may not be able to find everybody who's on septic and not tied into the system. But if they come forward and say, we are on septic, please take us off the variable rate, that would be one component. The other component is no reimbursement. We just going forward, you take them off the variable rate. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, that's what board staff would be comfortable with.
Okay.
You say no reimbursement as of the date that it's reported to the utility?
Yeah, so like, let's say that I'm a customer, I go to the utility January 1 and I say, I'm not on sewer, take me off, and they wait until July to take me off, then I should get reimbursed those 7 months that I shouldn't have paid. But anything prior to January 1 when the utility is notified, because again, from the practical stance, you're not gonna know until someone reports it, so.
And I'll just add, it had to be verified. Like if there's someone says, hey, we're on septic, and we go out and say, no, you're not, you obviously wouldn't.
And it could take the utility some time to verify it. So if it takes 2 months to get out there and you verify it, then I would say that the utility should give the 2 months payment back because it took you 2 months, but that's not the customer's fault that you have a backlog.
Just nothing retroactive.
Correct. From the time that it's been reported. So let me try to remake a recommendation here. So the utility at the okay. Well, the first thing that's easy is they don't have to get us the rate study till February 14th. Okay, is that a Saturday? Anyone know? So February 13th. That's a Friday. Okay, so they have till February 13th to get us a rate study. We're able to give an extension if needed. I doubt it because it sounds like they're moving ahead, but you never know. So now, board staff would like to recommend that the utility shall immediately cease the policy of charging usage fees to customers that the utility knows aren't hooked up to sewer, and moving forward, customers who report that they aren't hooked up to sewer, and they're only there for water, and when the utility verifies that report to them, and then another paragraph, the utility is not responsible, the utility shall not reimburse customers for sewer fees prior to the date of report in which the utility is made aware that they are not on the sewer. but the utility shall reimburse fees in the time period between when the notice is given to the utility that they aren't on the sewer and when the utility is able to verify that they are not on the sewer.
Ross, the only thing that would make me more comfortable, I think when you use shalls, it's a big deal.
Sure.
I would be more comfortable with saying is not responsible
Okay.
for reimbursement.
Sure. Okay. The utility is not responsible for reimbursement. And I guess that does give the flexibility to utility to reimburse if they want to.
If they wanted to.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know.
Okay. Then the utility is not responsible.
Mr. Smith.
One clarifying question. You said that they would cease to do a variable rate, but the fixed rate is still allowed, right?
Correct. Yeah. So whatever their fixed rate is right now, they can go for it. And I will say that there's no way for me to quantify it right now. But if over the next 3 months, should your utility say, okay, we still need to get a certain amount of sewer, the average bill for a customer is $50, so we need to add an extra $5, $10 to the minimum bill to make up for that foregone revenue because we're not doing the variable anymore. You're not going to get any flack from us until that rate study is verified. But yeah,
The rate study would hopefully verify a very reasonable flat fee.
that's the thing. Yes.
Could I get clarification?
Yeah.
Is it a flat access fee or a flat usage fee?
So it's a flat access fee, similar to water. I mean, you have an access fee and then you get charged variable. So sewer, you're getting an access fee and then there is no variable unless you're on the sewer system, then you will get a variable rate. So like, let's say that water is $25 a month for 2,000 gallons and then $5 per thousand. On the sewer side of things, you would have $25 per month, $5 per thousand. But if you're not on the sewer system, you don't have to pay that $5 a thousand. You're just getting $25 in there.
Mr. Hampton.
Ross, your motion, as long as it was.
Yeah.
I have you mentioned that if this today, they notified today by not a taxpayer, ratepayer, that anything after that, they will get reimbursed, in theory. Like
Sure.
That's your motion gears it where the ratepayer is notifying. What about a utility district that understands that we'll use generic Maple Street? No house on there was ever put on there because
Right.
they were all, and they knew it. We'll call it tomorrow,
Mhm.
right? Like, and they were not notified by those individuals. How?
So-
if they,
Yeah, so
how
my
do we-
recommendation was for parties that the utility knows aren't on the sewer or when they're notified. So if the utility's sitting there and says, I know Maple Street is not on the sewer, then the utility needs to go take Maple Street off of the variable rate for the sewer.
Okay. All right. And then they would be at that time, but how would we verify that? How would the ratepayer verify that? We'll say May 1st, they knew it, and then they should get money back versus.
Yeah, we're going into a nebulous example there.
I'm an accountant,
where-
I'm sorry, I'm just
No,
looking-
sure, no, but that would result in a customer complaint
Okay.
under like our typical thing is someone would say, I'm owed, $20 because I knew they took Joe Schmo off on July 1st. They waited till August to take me off and
All right.
so on and so forth.
Thank you.
One other convoluting factor, I completely mine will be adjusted probably by the time I get home. But there is also one other complicating muddy water factor because of what we do every day. Not every utility has a fixed 0-gallon minimum for your access. Some have 500, 1,000, up to 2,000 gallons. So I think you might want to use the term fixed, non-variable charge or minimum bill. Otherwise, you're going to get into a murky area of how do you handle those utilities that have a rate that gives X gallons on the water side, and then they do a ratio or a proportion of sewer to water.
Yeah. So I'm fine with adjusting whatever language to where it just reflects minimum bill. I'm totally fine with that. And I would also like to use this to plug that we always recommend utilities to drop any usage on a minimum bill. That we've taken the stance that it should be zero. I know that there are a lot of utilities out there that don't do that, but I think there's a great time to just say everyone should drop theirs to zero. And sorry to anyone on the board whose minimum is not zero. No shade, but we still think it should be.
I agree. This is weird. We don't give electricity away.
If I may ask for clarification, are we basically saying the non-variable fee? That's really what the category is.
Yes. Yeah. So you're allowed to charge the non-variable fee.
Whatever it's minimum or
Yes.
whatever. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd call for the question.
Thank you.
All right, so discussion is over. The question has been called. Accept staff recommendations.
You okay with that acceptance?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman, Board, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
hey, no problem. Okay, and so board, we're going to be still going out of order a bit. Nate is going to go back up to the podium to introduce the City of Friendship.
So appreciate that, Ross. Sorry, board. I didn't anticipate that one taking as much time as it did, but I appreciate the comments and the discussion y'all had on that. So if we're moving on from the town of Centerville over to the City of Friendship on page 242, representatives from the City of Friendship are here as required by a subpoena ordered by this board. So I'll turn it over in just a minute to the mayor of the city, but I do want to run through our staff recommendation and our staff summary. If you've had a chance to review the packet, you will have already seen that it's quite a lengthy recommendation and summary. And there's also quite a bit of supplementary documentation that's included after the recommendation. The supplementary documentation was requested upon by the Attorney General's office that we've been working with. And it's also, I think, just good information that we probably would have included anyway. With that being said, I do want to provide y'all with a very, very quick, hopefully, summary of the documentation that's provided, just so y'all have a timeline of what has happened since the July meeting. So if y'all will remember, the utility is currently involved in litigation with Mr. Bill Williams with the Friendship Water Company. They are a private company that sells water to the City of Friendship. Recently, the lawsuit was essentially ended. The judge ordered restitution and fees be paid by the utility in the amount of essentially $5.3 million. According to information provided by the utility's attorney, they plan on appealing this ruling. A second point I just want to briefly mention, because I think this could impact, hopefully not, but could impact future discussions with utility systems here in the state of Tennessee. The judge in the case did find in his conclusion of law that water in its natural state is water that is pumped from the ground in liquid form. I mention that because the board has long asked if water that is contaminated with tetrachloroethylene, which for those who are newer to the board may not be familiar with this situation as much as we are, but my understanding is it's essentially a clothes cleaning byproduct that's been leached into the ground and is currently being absorbed by the private company's wells. And so according to the judge, they found that water was still in its natural state, which did not void the contract that was signed between the company and the city. Moving on, like I mentioned, I have consolidated files from staff in the Attorney General's office into the following timeline. On August 5th, the utility's attorney was given notice by the AG's office of 3 actions required: an immediate action, which was ordered by the board a long time ago, which requires that capital projects are approved by board staff. Action required within 10 days is assurances that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen will appear before the board's next meeting, because at our last meeting they had actually been subpoenaed, but they did not appear. And then actions within 30 days, and there's quite a few there. I won't go through them all. The AG's office sent various emails reminding the utility and attorney to respond. On August 14th, I spoke directly with Mayor Burnett, and the city Recorder Deborah Butler, and I relayed the AG's requirements and again urged them to communicate with board staff. Mr. Willis, who is the attorney for the city, did not respond to the AG's demands until the very last day. He did not provide a request for approval of pending capital projects nor assurances that the full board of mayor and aldermen would attend. Later that day, the AG's office responded and reminded Mr. Willis of the September 4th deadline, which is the 30-day requirement. On August 20th, I followed up with an email and included delivery and red receipts. I received both from Ms. Butler, and I received only a delivery receipt from Mayor Burnett. However, I have still not received a response from either email that was sent to these individuals. The AG's office on August 28th contacted Mr. Willis, reminding him of the deadline. September 3rd, the AG's office sent another email reminding Mr. Willis of the deadline. On August 5th, a follow-up email was provided by the AG's office that basically confirmed a text conversation between Mr. Willis and the AG's office that gave an extension to September 8th. On September 8th, Mr. Willis emailed again requesting another extension. The AG's office granted that. On September 10th, which was after the September 9th extended deadline, Mr. Willis emailed the AG's office again, a preliminary response to which the AG's office responded, said that it was woefully inadequate and that utilities' lack of diligence and urgency in responding to the Attorney General's letter was disappointing to say the least. On September 19th, we finally received the full response from Mr. Willis, which is included in this packet. One note that I would like to make, there are quite a few that I would make, but one I will bring up is Mr. Willis claimed that the utility had adequately addressed the first concern raised in your letter regarding the ARP funding, or essentially the plans for capital project. As of today, as of when this board recommendation and staff summary was written, we had not received a request for a capital project approval. And it's in your supplementary packet there in front of you, and we'll discuss it a little bit more. But we didn't receive that until October 16th, which was yesterday, from the engineer. Board staff still believes that this is inadequate based on the requests that were made by board staff. It doesn't provide anticipated depreciation as one of the issues, but it also is somewhat convoluted in nature. It seems to describe two potential projects that are considered. One is, I think, called what the engineer calls a base bid, and a second, which is essentially seems to be a additional bid that would, I assume, require additional funding. So it's board staff's opinion that the letter sent by the engineer still does not meet the requirements and give proper scope to the project. An update I just want to provide briefly is that the meter project, which was started a while ago and ordered by the board, I think in 2023 December, is about, I think, halfway done. They've replaced 350 meters in a 3.5-year period. The utility alleges that this is due to staffing shortages. So with all that, board, I'm not going to read through all the recommendations because there are 16 different recommendations. I'll definitely open to any questions you all might have. And if you have any questions now, I'll answer those. If you don't have any questions, then I will ask if it's the will of the board to turn this over to Mayor Burnett for a 5-minute period.
Any questions? Please proceed.
Thank y'all, and I apologize for not being here when I was supposed to, okay? We've had a lot of problems, but we've had two of our ladies at City Hall. One of them's has had 11 operations because of a dog scratch, and she's trying to save her hand and all that, and she did a lot of this stuff and she came in and worked a day or two at a time and not. And the other lady was busy collecting bills, okay? And we got behind on some stuff. And that's why I wasn't here, okay? And I apologize for it. We've got two new ladies working at City Hall now, along with them, and they're doing a great job, and they're getting us caught up on everything, and there's no way that I will miss when I'm supposed to be here anymore, okay? We've got that taken care of. Give you a real quick history thing there on us. We've had a tough fight for 4 or 5 years, but anyway, we were purchasing water, like he said, from a private water source. And we took the water system over, the distribution and partly treatment process, in 1989 from a private company that used to provide water for the whole town and do everything. And the water system went to nothing, and they couldn't get any federal funding because they were a private system. So anyway, they had a long-term agreement with the city, and we were had to get an opinion from the state attorney general way back then on how to proceed, and they come up with a deal. This was right before I come into office in the 80s, that they would purchase water from the water company, and the city would take over the distribution system and and all that stuff, put in a filter plant and all that. But anyway, everything went on pretty good. But in regular routine testing, we come up with a VOC, tetrachloroethylene, in the water samples. And anyway, that's where that has dumped a lot of expense off on us. We had to put they come up with they called it a coarse air bubbler. And I built a thing at my shop. I work on fire trucks for a living. I'm a part-time mayor. But anyway, engineers and Mr. George Garden up there sent me a sketch of how to do it. Put that thing in there, and it stripped the tetrachloroethylene out until we could get the city could dig a couple of wells and at another location, and we haven't had any trouble with VOC since. We stopped purchasing water from them. We were ordered to do that by TDEC in writing, to stop purchasing water from the water company, Mr. Williams. Now, of course, they sued us, wanted us to keep paying them monthly fee that we was paying them for water. They said it make no difference if tetrachloroethylene in it or not, that's what we're supposed to use. And like say, we were ordered by TDEC in writing to stop using it, and which is what we have to do what they say. Now, we hadn't had any problems with that VOC, but there was a lot of expense involved there that hit us, and then we had made plans for a new sedimentation basin and a new aerator and a new building for our filters. Our filter building is terrible, where the water filters are. And when this hit, we just had to stop that project. And so anyway, we got at the same time this was going on, we had an activated sludge plant, sewer plant, that we'd had in operation since 1980. And we're so far from a river and all that we were discharging into a creek that has no flow in it, except that. Now, if it comes a flood, it does, but what I mean, we had there, according to our inspector, there were 3 systems in Tennessee with discharge limits as tight as ours because of that. Every time we got a new NPDES permit, we had to spend money wanting us to do something else, dropping our discharge limits.
Mayor Burnett, that's the end of your 5 minutes, so I think now would be an appropriate time to field questions from the board.
Board members, Mr. Kellogg.
Mr. Burnett, just picking up some of the things you said, obviously you've had some trials with the water quality from the agreement you've had, separate litigation issue, which has nothing to do directly with this board, as I understand it. But with the deficiencies, the failure to appear, the notices, and I appreciate the apology, we appreciate you being here today, but we all give of our time to come down here and try to serve. Who is your licensed operator who would be responsible for water quality to your customers?
Me.
You hold a distribution license, you pull the back samples?
Water treatment 2, distribution 2, and sewer collection too.
So you sign the monthly operating reports and send them to TDEC?
Well, I've got another, I'm just one of them. We have two for each category. I'm just one of them.
So with the issue that's here with the decrease in net position and the thing that's going, obviously this is an extensive proposed order that staff is making that would be extremely difficult for anybody. You have the follow-up with the deficiencies, I guess kind of the slow speed in changing over meters, and I understand the turnover in staff and things that's going there.
Oh,
What's
I've
the,
got-
how,
I've
how
got
do you
an
get
answer
from point
for
A to
you.
point B?
Okay, on our meter thing, we, first thing is we had a lot of new expenses. It put us in the red, put water and sewer in the red. And we did a rate study, so rate study said nothing you can do, start raising rates. So we did, we raised, in 2021, we went up $16 per month. In 2023, we went up $14 per month and also $2 per thousand, on the
Yes, sir.
usage. And then we have a rate increase that goes into effect in January 2026 of $16 more per month. And that will get us, it's tough, it's doubling our rates, but that will get us, fully funding depreciation again like we're supposed to. And the reason we haven't pushed the pedal too hard was we were having to wait till these rate increases produced enough money to do some of this stuff. You know what I'm talking about? But also on the meters,
And how long have you been the mayor, sir?
it's 89. And look, we've always teeter-tottered along, just, you know what I'm talking about, barely funding depreciation most of the time.
But we've all known we've got to fund depreciation for many, many years.
Oh,
We
yeah,
all
sir.
follow those same guidelines.
Oh, yeah,
and
sir.
If
But-
we don't with the comptroller, they bust
Come
us.
after us.
But
what
if you've been there
happened-
since '89 and you don't respond to the subpoenas and you come, how do we get you out of the hole? And
Well-
what do we do to help?
Well, I think
Get to an
I think we're getting there. You know what I'm talking, these rate increases are helping us. You know what I'm talking about? We had
Respectfully, no.
so many new expenses to hit us at one time that we simply couldn't raise rates on our customers fast enough, you know what I'm talking about, to meet them. And I apologize for that, but it's it happened to us.
So once again, back to my question. You're saying we're waiting again on a pending rate increase that's going to increase $16 more January 1 of 26, and you think that will get you
That
to
will
where
get
now
us-
you would be in the black in an operating position,
Yes, sir.
which should hopefully then remedy this.
Yes, sir.
And you have new
look here,
staff to replace the two that
Right.
were the reason you got behind on paperwork.
Yes, sir. Now, also.
One last question for me, and then I'll shut
Okay.
up. Water quality issues, because if you're getting bad water and you're trying to treat water, one of the first things is the water good to your customers? Are there any water quality stage twos, NOVs, or do you have any outstanding other TDEC quality issues?
No,
Your,
sir.
your issues are timeliness, not answering subpoenas, not responding, and paperwork.
Our paperwork stuff, and we're, like I say, we're getting that caught up right away. We got good people working, you know, talking about getting that caught up. As far as the water, we're meeting everything. The VOC, we hadn't had that since we put the two new wells in, okay? We hadn't any problem with it.
And I commend you
uh,
for that. The water quality of your customers, if we don't care about public health and safety and making sure that our customers have safe drinking water, if you get a contaminated source, then I think as the mayor, the chief officer, and you having the licenses even further understand with your technical training, the importance of making sure that water is safe to drink, because that's mothers, babies, children's, grandparents, et cetera, that. The other becomes financial, but then even the mayor, you're carrying both hats. You got the water quality responsibility as well as the financial sustainability for your community on your shoulders.
We
And
had
since
so much,
'89,
we had so
we've
much
just
hit
not
us at one
seemed to
time
perform.
that we couldn't raise rates. You know what I'm talking about, as fast as our expenses went up. But we're doing them.
Thank you.
And as far, one more thing, going back to that meter stuff and, our water laws. I was informed by our engineers and we've got, like everybody else, we've got some people that apply for grants for us. They both called me about 3 weeks ago, and now we're eligible to apply for a grant that will finish our meter change out, and also they'll put the listening devices on the water mains around them, see if we got any leaks. Do things that we don't have equipment to do. And we hadn't been eligible. Well, you can apply for anything, but they watch, and according to our water loss score, we're now eligible. You know what I'm talking about, to apply for that.
Mr. Giles.
Sir, how many water meters do you have total?
We've got 365.
Okay. And you have already purchased water meters? Do you have them in hand?
We don't have enough to finish all of them, no, sir.
Okay.
We've been buying them as we could afford them. You know what I'm talking about? and
Are you
letting
putting them
me
in
pay.
as you buy them, or are you waiting to put them in? What type of water system, are you putting them AMRs, AMI, or are you putting into center?
They're, Zenner.
Okay.
Zenners.
But you're saying the issue to replace them is financial, not people, correct?
Right. Well, both.
Well, I'm asking that question because I've got one gentleman who puts in 40 water meters a week, and that's why I'm asking that question.
Well, and you're right, but buying them, another thing we're getting into is we're finding we've got angle valves that won't off. You know what I'm talking about? And having to, that makes a 5-minute job turn into a, and plus, if we don't have the equipment to do that leak detection like they, you know what I'm talking about, can do with this grant. Our system is fairly new. Since the city took it over, we've replaced virtually all the water mains and valves and stuff. Used to, if they had a leak, you had to turn the whole town off, to work on it and stuff like that. We don't have to do anything like that anymore. We've been constantly improving it. But like I say, we got hit with a headwind and when some serious health issues at City Hall, and but we're getting those straightened out. And
one last question, and then I will shut up. Do you have any nearby neighbors that have greater managerial technical capacity to be able to provide mutual aid or assistance? Or do you have, 350 total meters is respectfully is a pretty small system.
Yes, sir, we're real
And
small.
so even if you're producing your water yourself and you have a well that gets contaminated, what's your backup if the other one's contaminated? What do you do to protect the rest of your system? What other resilience do you have?
Great question. We're surrounded on 3 sides by a rural water district. But the only problem is their lines are small, and they have 2 water plants, neither of which could we didn't know what was gonna happen when that contaminant hit, okay? You know what I'm talking about? The worst thing that anybody can ever tell you is all of a sudden you come up with something that you're putting water to people's houses that the state and federal government says is not safe. Now, we never went over the limit, okay? It's 5 parts per billion is the limit on that tetrachloroethylene. But countywide utility district has some small mains, one on each side of town. And we calculated that we could get enough water out of both of them if we absolutely had to, but their plant would have to run 20 hours a day. You know what I'm talking about? It would blow the heck out of it.
And I'll also add to that, years ago, and I think this was under the WWFB, we were trying to push them to getting a connection with countywide utility district and even countywide taking over Friendship at some point. And those talks had to be halted after Friendship Water Company got involved and essentially put out a cease and desist with any sort of help from Countywide Utility District.
So clarification, so this water company is providing contaminated water, but yet they feel like they have some type of justified reason for being involved in this?
Yeah, we don't really understand how Friendship Water Company has had such authority when it comes to the City of Friendship's utility. Personally, I think that there has been great injustices done by representatives of the city in trying to resolve this. I think that the facts of the matter make it very clear that the city is a victim in this situation, and I don't think that the city has been adequately represented in anything that's been done to resolve to the benefit of the city.
Mr. Perky, you're recognized.
Mayor, I sympathize with your position. I was a county mayor myself for 16 years. It sounds to me like that you're a person who tries to help out in a lot of areas. There's an old saying that I'm the mayor, the police chief, and the fire chief.
I am not the police chief, but I'm mayor and fire chief.
You are the fire chief also. So it sounds like you're overextended. You're trying to do the right thing. And I won't get into the lawsuit because you're going to appeal it. Is that fair to say?
The city's attorneys have been, that's what they say that that's where we'll beat them.
Okay, but you plan to appeal it. How much do you have in fund balance? How much does Friendship have in your water fund balance?
Oh, about $40-something thousand.
Okay. It's fair to say that your system is probably not growing. Is that fair to say?
We add 2 or 3 customers a year average.
Okay. Do you have any idea what the city's fund balance runs? The city of Friendsville, the general fund balance?
Oh, it depends on what time of the year it is. Usually by year end, it's about 50,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And with that being said, how much was the total judgment? Like how much do y'all have to pay Friendship Water Company if you don't appeal it?
It was based on a whole bunch.
Yeah, what was
of
the
years
amount?
and years is- I forgot.
I think it was 5 million?
5.3.
5.3 million is what they would have to, plus the attorney's fees.
That's included.
Oh, that was including the attorney's fees. So 5.3 million. Well, regardless, it's a lot of money that the city doesn't have. So I don't think that they have a choice but to appeal this. And so I would strongly recommend that y'all try to do what's best for the customers and really implore your council to get this thing done. And maybe, because, I mean, how long did that lawsuit take? A decade?
Not quite, but several years.
So, I mean, that lawsuit had been going on since I started back in 2019. So I just really think if y'all are slow moving, responding to us, I would say that you might want to be a little fast moving and trying to get this resolved, because it's just resulting in more and more attorney's fees that your customers are having to pay.
Well, are you suggesting that we try to settle with them or something? Or just keep fighting them? So we tried, I pushed it as hard as I could, but it's been before the judge up there forever. You know what I'm talking about? We did our testimony and stuff a long time ago.
Mr. Chairman.
But the city attorneys thinks they'll have a lot better luck on the appeal.
Mr. Pella?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept staff recommendation as made to move on with this. Hopefully, they can resolve the other litigation issue in a manner that's more appropriate for the benefit of the customers themselves and the citizens of Friendship. But I would move to accept staff recommendation as made on this matter.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendations for the city of Friendship. Are there any further discussions? None being, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you for your, Seth?
Yeah, do you mind if I ask a question before Mayor Burnett leaves? And actually for the other representatives as well. The meeting that y'all didn't attend, we sent 7 letters to the City of Friendship. Is there somewhere else that we should send mail?
No, sir. I've got that covered now. They had a little old girl up there helping them. She didn't know what, she was going to the mailbox and getting it. She didn't know what to do with it.
So she had to sign for certified mail.
And
There were 7 letters.
I'm so sorry about that, okay? But I've got that taken care of now, and when I'm supposed to be up here, I'll be here, I promise.
And so letters that are addressed to the other members of the city council, are they actually given to them?
The city council, I've got all of those.
Did they make it to the city council though?
Well, we hadn't had a meeting since then.
Well,
But
you don't need
that's-
a meeting to deliver mail to them.
But yes, sir, they all knew about the meeting. In fact, we were gonna come up here. What was the last date on the last? July 17th. Yes. In fact, I did come because I was already
Oh,
up
you're
here.
you're referring to the September
And,
date that we originally subpoenaed you for the second time. Did your attorney not tell you that meeting was moved?
Look here, I called him that afternoon, before, okay? I was already up here. I had to run up there and get some parts.
But
So
he
I
didn't.
come on the next morning. He never said anything about it.
Okay.
And, I had to get word to him, we didn't have to come. I apologize.
Mr. Perky?
Mayor, you have a full-time city recorder.
Yes, sir. And look, her health's terrible. The other girls is too, but we have got 2 new ladies, you know what I'm talking about, they're in there training now. And,
Well, my point is, with everybody being part-time, that position has got to be responsible for receiving important stuff.
normally
I mean,
that wouldn't have been a problem, but it happened to us this time.
I
That's all I can do is
understand.
apologize. And, hey, the buck stops with me, okay? I apologize, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is that?
All right. Thank you, sir. We're good. So, board, we're going to stay a little bit out of order here because Nate has already gone through his first 2 cases for West Tennessee, and so I would just suggest that we continue rolling through the rest of West Tennessee. So, Nate, you're up with the city of Loretto.
That's all I know. That's all I know. Yeah, that's-
All right, board. Moving on, and I promise these 2 will hopefully take a little bit quicker than the last 2. But we're moving to page 288, which is the city of Loretto. If y'all will remember the last meeting, we opened an administrative review due to the comptroller's investigative report that was issued regarding to the town's manager illicit use of a company equipment, or not a company, but government equipment and government time. We recommended that they work with a third-party expert to adopt policies to assist in providing and prohibiting circumstances similar to those outlined in the comptroller's report. As of this time, we feel comfortable with the policies that were provided to us. They worked with a third-party expert in creating and drafting those. They've adopted them at the board level. And so at this time, we don't feel like there's any further action necessary by this board, and this is just a recommendation that we release it from the board's oversight.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to accept staff recommendation.
Motion and second to accept board recommendation to release from board oversight, City of Loretto. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, board. And then on the very next page, which is 289, will be the city of Tennessee Ridge. This is a little bit similar to Centerville's in the sense that this is not due to this is not caused by a lack of effort by the city, rather just an issue with the third party that is providing the services. In this case, they are behind 2 years on their audits. They have completed the 2023 audit, so now they're just behind on the 24, but most likely will be behind on the 25 here in the next 2 months. The issue is that they were working with ATA, and ATA just was not moving quickly enough There's a letter that was received from ATA stating back in April that they would have both the 23 and the 24 to us by the end of April. Obviously, it's October now, and we still don't have the 24. So like I said, this is not necessarily an issue caused by the town, rather an issue with the auditing firm. And so they have essentially fired the auditing firm and have contracted with a new CPA. I've talked with that CPA, and they feel comfortable with the dates that are provided in the new recommendation for getting both the 24 and the 25 audit to you all. And if those audits fail to be filed timely, we can revisit this. I believe it would be at the July meeting, but I feel comfortable that they'll be able to provide both audits by that time.
Mr. Smith.
So did ATA provide a reason for their tardiness?
So not to my knowledge, I would assume that it's most likely due to either understaffing or just an overweight of work.
And I'll also add to that, Mr. Smith, this isn't the first instance where I've seen ATA being quite behind on audits.
But with that, I'm looking for a motion and a second from the board if there's no more questions.
I move to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve staff recommendations. Any discussion further? None being, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, 10 seconds if I could. It would help me on these complaints and entities if in parentheses after the city, you would put what county it's in. I've found myself today Googling where these cities are. I don't have a perspective where a lot of them are, and I think it helps when we're talking about them just to geographically know where they're at. So like City of Tennessee Ridge, if you could just put in parentheses what county.
You know, back in the day, we used to actually provide a map, but as our agendas grew, it became more and more difficult, but we will take care of that.
Yeah, I'm not asking for a
No, sure. I actually, I kind of have an idea we might be able to pull off a map, but we'll see. Maybe not for the December meeting. We'll get the counties in there for December, but I kind of have an idea for moving forward.
Well, I appreciate it, board, and you are done hearing from me today, and I will pass it off, I think, to Ben for East Tennessee.
Yes, board, we're going to move to East, Middle, then back to the manager cases, and I will wrap up the day.
So I believe this is on 211. You should see Bristol Bluff City Utility District, which I think is probably fresh in everyone's mind from our special call meeting earlier this month. But as you'll recall, they were under financial distress, and that's where the merger stuff all started from. But either way, they do have positive financial position currently based on their 24 and 23 audits. So they're out of distress, and so we are recommending that they go ahead and be released from oversight for
Mr.
financial
Chairman, I
distress.
move to accept staff recommendation on Bristol Bluff City Utility District.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendation on Bristol Bluff City Utility District. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, very good. The next is Clear Fork Utility District. And so if you see there's quite a bit of a summary of what's gone on. They're an entity that's been under the board for quite a while now. They've missed a lot of deadlines. Back at the March meeting, we set out a new series. We essentially rescinded everything and set out a new series of deadlines. The first one they did miss, which was their audits, but since then they did get everything caught back up. And they are, they did get a rate study done. They did get a feasibility analysis done. What I'll say about both of those is the feasibility doesn't recommend anything specifically at this time. There's some a system in Kentucky that would maybe be a partner, but it's really that kind of blurs some lines with what this board has authority over. So there's not a great feasibility merger partner at the time being. What I will say also with the rate study, they did get that carried out, and their rates actually are sufficient as they are currently to continue on. So there's nothing that they needed to implement, but they did get both of those studies carried out. The one thing that the rate study does point out is one of their major customers is being charged a pretty astronomical rate right now, to the point where they may lose this customer. And if they did lose this customer, they might find themselves back into financial distress. And so what we've said, and we don't have a specific number, which is unfortunate from that rate study, of where those rates should be for this one large customer. And a little bit of background, it's a Bitcoin operation, and I believe they have a lot of water usage. I mean, it's commercial, but they've kind of got a set aside rate for them. And basically what the study found was that if they don't look at what they're being charged currently, they may lose them. Or this operation may pack up and take their somewhere else where they can get a better rate. And so what we've recommended is that we place them in the update cycle pending that they go ahead and evaluate this rate for this Bitcoin company. And that was kind of the recommendation that followed out of the rate study. It really wasn't anything else that came of it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to accept staff recommendation.
I second. We have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendation on Clear Fork Utility District. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, board, page 214 of the packet for middle. There's two here. The first is Minor Hill Utility District. They were brought under us for financial distress as of 2024. After reviewing the questionnaire, we saw that they have not had a rate study done by a third party in over 5 years. So that is our recommendation today. By December 15th, to provide us a copy of the contract on who will do that rate study. It'll be due April 15th of 26, and there is some subpoena language and extension language in there.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept staff recommendation on Minor Hill Utility District.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendation on Minor Hill Utility District. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And moving on to Huntland on page 216. They are under us for administrative review back in 2024. We recently got their rate study, and there's a long summary here just to summarize it for you. I'm not going to read all of this, but there were 3 different scenarios that were presented to us there. Scenario 1 isn't really viable for the utility. The other 2 options are fine for the moment, but we are looking a little bit more forward thinking and seeing that this sewer system is not necessarily sustainable for that utility. And so we'd like to move forward with the board ordering a feasibility study in addition to that rate study that they've already completed.
Make a motion to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept staff recommendation on the town of Huntland. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, board.
All right. Well, board, we have reached pretty much the end. We are on the manager cases now, which begin at page 208. The first item there is the Fall Creek Falls Utility District. If you recall from a previous meeting, we've opened up an administrative review into the Fall Creek Falls Utility District due to some supply issues in the area and general concerns over management. Board staff has met with the utility. We have some findings right now, but we don't have enough to come up with a full recommendation. I will say I am extremely concerned about the management of the utility. They don't have a general manager. They just kind of have like, I don't know who's in charge of the utility is the point that I'm trying to make. Even to the extent one of their board members creates the budget for the utility, even though they have office staff. And then there was huge confusion because they thought they were under a continuation budget because they changed the fiscal year end. In our discussions with the utility, there was just a lot of confusing information provided. We're working on a recommendation because things need to change at that utility. As of right now, we just don't know what it is. So I'm asking y'all, I'm not asking y'all to do anything. I just wanted to give y'all an update because I think in our last order, we said I'd talk about it at the next board meeting. Does anyone have any questions on Fall Creek Falls Utility at the moment?
Mr. Stone.
Ross, where does their water come from?
Big Creek.
I was about to say Anthony can
Bee
answer
Creek.
that.
Their water treatment facility is behind the old Taft Youth Detention
Okay,
Facility. And it
okay.
comes out of Bee Creek. There's an impoundment back there behind the farm that's also connected to Bledsoe Correctional Facility.
Ross, is there a neighbor who we could consider evaluating mergers in the future? I'm sure I'm way ahead of you, but
Yeah.
sorry.
No, so they're.
Can I answer
all-
that?
I mean,
Full disclosure, as I recused myself before, I would recuse myself again. I used to be there providing engineering services. Their adjacent utilities where they back up to Bledsoe Correctional. There is a primary line that comes up from Pikeville that feeds the Bledsoe Correctional Facility. The city of Pikeville is the nearest capable entity. Then they join the Fall Creek Falls State Park, and then Warren County Utility District 2, formerly Spencer, is the neighbor on the far side. But their adjacent would be South Cumberland. If you came from Lantana Road from Crossville coming that way, city of Pikeville that drops off the plateau, going from the plateau area down into the city of Pikeville, and then the park. And so then,
Multiple
then it's
opportunities.
topographically and geographically isolated beyond that
Okay.
for hills and valleys.
Okay.
and I will say on that note, sorry, Mr. Stone, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say they're part of the water shortage disaster coming on the Cumberland Plateau.
Yeah. And I will say along those lines, I'm sure y'all have heard about the Cumberland Plateau Water Authority. And as far as South Cumberland's concerned, I'm pretty sure they voted to join the Water Authority within the last month. And so just to plug them really quick, Jeff Dyer down at Cumberland Plateau Water Authority has been making great strides in getting all the utilities on board. I think he's about to have 3 utility districts all combined into one. Hoping to get the city of Crossville to join up, but that's a different story. Moving on, Gladeville Utility District. If y'all recall, a few meetings ago, we had a water hardness complaint out of the Gladeville Utility District. Law was changed to the benefit of the customer. Since then, I have not been able to get a hold of the complainant. So we just want to close this because I assume since he doesn't want to talk to me, he's no longer got a problem.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept staff recommendation on Gladeville Utility District. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Sevier County Utility District. This was on the agenda at the request of Mayor Larry Waters. I was in contact with him last month. He called me yesterday, day before, to inform me that he would be unable to attend this meeting because he was waiting for a call from the governor in assistance to keeping the national park open. So he was unable to attend this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask one brief update, can you give just a 1,000-foot view or 30,000-foot view of
Yes.
the last order for the ouster proceedings?
Yes, so since the last meeting, not a whole lot has changed from our perspective. Their board members are still there. We'll say they have since fired the CFO, which was one of the main questions that we had. So board staff is happy to see that. It's sad that it had to get our involvement to get him fired, but he has since been relieved of his duty. As far as getting this matter to a contested case, I'll let Seth answer that where we're at.
To be honest, I've not had made any progress there.
So we're still waiting to work with the Secretary of State's office to get that contested case hearing scheduled. With that, let's go to the last item, which is the South Fork Utility District, which I don't see it in this packet, but that's totally okay because there's not a lot to read. If y'all recall, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a special called meeting regarding the South Fork Utility District in which we voted to rescind the last order that the South Fork Utility District planned to contest with us. During that meeting, we had discussions about requiring updates from the South Fork Utility District to let us know how things are going now that they are now that they have lost their manager. Since Adam Hale, previous manager of South Fork, resigned months ago, they have failed to hire a manager in the meantime. So we're still waiting to see who the new manager will be. As I am very concerned about the future of the South Fork Utility District because Adam was a huge asset to improving the district, and without him there, concerned with who the next manager is going to be. So right now, what board staff would like to do is recommend that they provide quarterly updates to board staff regarding changes in management, issues financially, environmental issues, like any sort of violations with TDEC. So those will be provided quarterly, and board staff is able to request additional information in those updates as board staff sees fit, and we'll come to the board whenever we get those updates and let us know how Southwark is going until we're comfortable releasing them.
We need a motion for that, correct?
Yeah, that would be great. Can we get a motion for quarterly updates from the Southwark Utility District?
Seth is recognized first.
Just as part of this motion, can you authorize board staff to determine the exact dates on which things are due and add that to the order? It'll be quarterly, but we would actually set March 1st, July 1st.
Actually, let's just make it easy so we don't have to continuously. We want by the first day of each quarter. So January 1, April 1, August. Why isn't that math making sense in my head? July 1.
July,
October. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, the first day of each quarter.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so that is our agenda board. I told several of y'all that I didn't know how much shorter this meeting would be, but it would be the shortest one, and we did hit that mark. So I am happy with that. With that being said, we have our next regularly scheduled meeting on December the 10th? 17th? 11th. December the 11th. Should be on y'all's calendar already. If it's not, I'll double check all that. But unless there is no further discussion to fall under board discussion, I will seek a motion to adjourn.
Any further discussion, comments, board members?
Move we adjourn.
Good job. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.